الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها النبي إذا طلقتم النساء فطلقوهن لعدتهن وأحصوا العدة واتقوا الله ربكم لا تخرجوهن من بيوتهن ولا يخرجن إلا أن يأتين بفاحشة مبينة وتلك حدود الله ومن يتعد حدود الله فقد ظلم نفسه لا تدري لعل الله يحدث بعد ذلك أمرا فإذا بلغن أجلهن فأمسكوهن بمعروف أو فارقوهن بمعروف وأشهدوا ذوي عدل منكم وأقيموا الشهادة لله ذلكم يوعظ به من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه إن الله بالغ أمره قد جعل الله لكل شيء قدرا واللائي يئسن من المحيض من نسائكم إن ارتبتم فعدتهن 3 أشهر واللائي لم يحضن وأولاة الأحمال أجلهن أن يضعن حملهن ومن يتق الله يجعل له من أمره يسرا ذلك أمر الله أنزله إليكم ومن يتق الله يكفر عنه سيئاته ويعظم له أجرا أسكنوهن من حيث سكنتم من وجدكم ولا تضاروهن لتضيقوا عليهن وإن كن أولات حمل فأنفقوا عليهن حتى يضعن حملهن فإن أرضعن لكم فآتوهن أجورهن وأتمروا بينكم بمعروف وإن تعاسرتم فسترضع له أخرى لينفق ذو سعة من سعته ومن قدر عليه رزقه فلينفق مما آتاه الله لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها سيجعل الله بعد عسر يسرا وكأين من قرية عتت عن أمر ربها ورسله فحاسبناها حسابا شديدا فحاسبناها حسابا شديدا وعذبناها عذابا نكرا فذاقت وبال أمرها وكان عاقبة أمرها خسرا أعد الله لهم عذابا شديدا أعد الله لهم عذابا شديدا فاتقوا الله يا أولي الألباب الذين آمنوا قد أنزل الله إليكم ذكرا رسولا يتلو عليكم آيات الله مبينات رسولا يتلو عليكم آيات الله مبينات ليخرج الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات من الظلمات إلى النور ومن يؤمن بالله ويعمل صالحا يدخله جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا قد أحسن الله له رزقا الله الذي خلق 7 سماوات ومن الأرض مثلهن يتنزل الأمر بينهن لتعلموا أن الله على كل شيء قدير وأن الله قد أحاط بكل شيء علما.
As the gender war rages on, in order to bring the peace, we must discuss the exact facts. Welcome to Exactly. Assalamu alaikum. I am your host, Saudi Ma'am. Remove your shoes and enter upon your right foot, upon the right state of mind, bi'idhnillah. Topic: settling for less. What does that mean exactly? Definitions may vary from person to person, male to female, Muslim to kuffar. The modern kafira view, from the kafir woman's perspective, this could mean less money than they desired, less money than her. He doesn't quite match the fantasy in her head, some unpreferred physical features, or she missed out on her first choice. The modern Muslimah view. He has less money than she desires. He earns less than her. He does not match her fantasy. He has some unpreferred physical traits. She missed out on her first choice. He has some jahili tendencies, characteristics that preceded his Islam. He may not be as learned in the deen as she hoped. The modern kafir view, the kafir male. She has a child or children from previous relationships or marriage. She is not as fit as he desired, not as attractive as he desired, lacking culinary skills. She can't cook as well as he desires, lacking housekeeping skills, little to no ability to contribute financially. The modern Muslim view, lack of fatherly influence, lacking in application of the deen. She lacks knowledge of the deen or necessary knowledge of the deen. She is not as fit as he hoped. She is infertile if he is desirable of children. The Prophet ﷺ said, a woman is married for four things, that is, her wealth, her family status, her beauty, and her religion. So you should marry the religious woman, otherwise you will be losers. Or taribat yadaka, your hands, may your hands be covered with dust. There are 8 Muslim qualities that a Muslim woman may look for. These are not to be confused with the 4 reasons that Muhammad ﷺ stated, but also may include them. 8 Muslim male qualities: deen, attractiveness, nobility, intimacy, potency, maintenance, protection, leadership. 8 Muslimah qualities: deen, attractiveness, nobility, intimacy, fertility, tranquility, submissiveness, balance. As Muslims, we look for qualities in individuals to complement ourselves. And when these individuals fail to have these qualities that we desire, or these individuals do not possess all of the qualities that we desire, then we tend to do what is deemed as settling for less. At this time, I would like to bring on our guest, inshallah, and when he taps in, we will let him have his say regarding this issue because this is an important issue. Some may say these qualities or these points that I made, which are not obsolete, they can be flawed, they can be wanton, but yet and still these are keen observations. Keen observations. And as a Muslim, settling for less is not as the kuffar settle for less, but it is indeed as we, from our Muslim point of view, are deeming what it means to settle for less. Inshallah, the brother has tapped in, and as soon as he is on, mashallah, as soon as he sets up, he will opine upon this issue.
Okay, I'm in. I'm not sure if y'all can hear me or not.
I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You sound great. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to share the mic and turn the camera off.
Okay, inshallah.
But I'm not. I'm looking to see exactly how it's done or if it's even possible.
I'm not sure about
exactly
that.
How.
Yeah, they usually, if you're using a laptop or a desktop, usually they put something over the camera, a piece of tape, or there's a slider you can buy, an adapter. But I'm not sure if it'll let you go strictly audio.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Let me try this then. Sorry about that. I wasn't aware. I'm versed in another app that does allow it, or another screen share, but okay. All right. All set up now.
Inshallah. Did you were you able to catch the intro?
Yes, sir. I could.
Okay, inshallah. Would you like to opine upon that?
I'm pretty sure that in all honesty, everybody settles for something only because we're human, because we're flawed, we're limited. You don't have to mean any harm in order for your spouse to have to settle for you. It's not necessary. You can simply just be a human being, and she has to settle for something in him, and he has to settle for something in her. The issue comes about that, and I'm going to talk largely to the Muslims in this case. We understand that Allah is not going to allow a perfect spouse for anyone, nor will he allow anyone to be the perfect spouse. He hasn't done so. The universality of the human condition has been our limits and our mistakes. But what I'm seeing in the West mostly is the pendulum swinging too far in an opposite direction, in which, because in traditional societies, women were told to have patience and men were told different things, depending on the culture, but women were largely told to have patience. Now in the West, the pendulum is swung to where the men are told to be Superman, and the women are told that it is okay for them to be Lois Lane. As a matter of fact, forget Lois Lane. Lois Lame with an M at the end is in Mary. Because of this, I guess you could say the Muslims are at an impasse similar to what the non-Muslims are at. But we're supposed to have been above that. We have a set of instructions that surpasses anything else. We were supposed to know from the very beginning that we were going to be flawed and that the effort was going to make a bigger difference than anything else. Somehow, somewhere down the line, instead, what we got is what we have now, wherein everyone must settle. But the men are told you're going to have to settle and take what you can get. Ain't nobody going to be perfect. And the women are told you should leave him for any reason at all. You shouldn't be patient with him. You should give him, show him the door as soon as you're displeased. And because in the court systems, anyone can file for divorce, we see a scenario in which amongst the non-Muslims and the Muslims alike, you have mostly women filing for divorce. And again, I'm talking about in the Western system. 80% of divorces now. And a few years ago, 2 years ago, the last thing I heard was 70. So it went up. And so, in a nutshell, now we have another result, which is that we've got men, Muslim and non-Muslim alike, who are saying, well, we'll bounce and we'll go either where the women are more traditional, which is exactly what the Western woman looks down on, or they will stay alone, period. Just stay alone by themselves and not ever be with anyone, because they're not going to put themselves at the mercy of a court and a society that's going to side with the women against the men by default. I do see a threat. I see that this is really one symptom of a bigger problem, which is the threat to the population in general. Maybe there are too many people on the planet. That's a different debate for a different day. But we're not seeing birth rates decline because everybody decided that there were too many people on the planet. We're seeing birth rates among the West, Muslim and non-Muslim, decline because the women are chasing the men away. And I want to make this very clear, and then I'm going to shut up for your next question. I do unequivocally say that in the West, the men did not push the women away. The women pushed the men away. We do not share the blame for this one. And with that being said, thanks for being patient. I'll shut up for your next question.
The issue with being chased away, which, like I mentioned, I think it was Plato that said, to make women equal with men is to make them superior. And the issue is being chased away. When you mention settling for less, men's roles have been belittled. Their roles have been usurped. And the women are now taking on those roles. And men are seeing, or even there's a cliche that says, I can do bad all by myself. I don't need no man, so on and so forth. And there is a race, which is particularly ours, that dominates this cliche. In this case, it stems from slavery. Now, with this new push to make women equal to men, which is to make them superior, this new push to make women independent of men, how does this play into the statement, I think I have to settle for less? Because this is what you see. They say, well, I can't find a man of my status. And I chuckle every time I hear it. I can't find a man of my status, so I guess I will have to settle for less. See what they have done, just as in slavery time, they have empowered the woman. They made the woman the head of the household, put the slave husband in the field, and were able to walk in and out, of her living quarters to satisfy their desires at any time that they wish. So they have them dress a certain way so they can satisfy their visual desires. They have them take on jobs that are indignified, like strippers and over-friendly waitresses and things like that. So now the man becomes obsolete in their eyes. They made devices and what they call toys to satisfy a woman in a certain way. They made pillows with one arm. They're called snuggle pillows that actually hold a woman at night. They're trying to replace the man in order to destroy society, but it's not affecting their portion of society. It's only affecting the so-called minority. What do you think of that?
In all honesty, I do think that it's affecting both communities, racially speaking.
Okay.
I do think that it's affecting the majority society in the States based on what some of their men are saying. I don't care about the majority society, to be honest. I don't think they can, based on what they've done to us and to other people, I don't think they can suffer enough. And I still am not sure that they're suffering enough. But this is one thing that has come back to bite them in the butt, if you're listening to even their own men. They complain, their women are complaining because their men are also going to Southeast Asia to find women that aren't going to always argue with them and challenge everything that the man says just to be contrary and prove that they have their own mind. Unless maybe she's also footing the bills for a lot of these things. But if that's not the case, then you know what the responsibility is on the man, then he's in charge. And so it's in the West, it's men of European extraction and other extractions that are looking at places like Southeast Asia, not only there, but just as an example. So yeah, their ladies are crying about this. on my other Facebook account under my real name, I saw it. And as a matter of fact, this is what makes it so pertinent. I saw something that a Muslima, who's a friend of my ex-wife in the States, had said. I don't remember what it was, but she said something about men in general, and I spoke up and commented. And her disbelieving European extraction friend jumped in and said something about men going to Southeast Asia because they can't handle a real woman with her own mind.
SubhanAllah.
So I clicked on the friend's profile, and the friend was a land whale who was with a Southeast Asian man and their baby. Now, she was not only wider than her man, she was also taller than him, because there's a picture of them standing near each other, next to each other. So I saw that she was doing exactly what it was that she was getting on her own men about doing. There's no way she was specifying melanated men from the West. And so what sometimes bothers the men is that they might go to some areas and the melanated men are preferred over them. But for the most part, no. This is something that's coming back to bite them too. I mean, they got guys that are in Australia and New Zealand complaining about this, in Canada, and the United States, in the UK, other Western European countries, and even sometimes in countries that aren't nearly first world, like in Brazil. There's a growing movement of men that are beginning to say, we're going to ditch them. They might be great for the foreign men that are coming down, but they're not so good to us. So I'm aware of that, even though I know a lot of brothers enjoy going to Brazil, whether they're going to fornicate, outright whoremonger, or if they're looking for wives, whichever one. A lot of brothers, I mean, African-American men do like to go to Brazil, some of my relatives included. But what happens is that the men that are there, it's not lost on me that the men who were there are in larger numbers saying, we're going to leave them alone. We're leaving our own alone. So no, this is something that's coming back to bite the Western world in the behind. They brought this on themselves. So when I see the majority populations going through it, I actually celebrate. I only mourn its effects on populations that didn't have a role in oppressing other populations.
When I was speaking of the effect, I'm looking at statistics and percentages. It's affecting them far less. Now, there is one brother, he's the brother Amu Yusuf. He is into digital marketing. That is his trade. And he has clients that run the gamut, rich and poor, right? That start up businesses and things of that nature. So he knows a doctor, female, who's married to a male professor, and she makes more than him. On the job, she is very commanding. She is running things. She's running the whole hospital, the whole building. You know, he noticed when he was invited to their home, when she got home, all of that machismo, or that, I shouldn't say machismo, maybe that initiative, all of that bossiness, it melted at the threshold. That she became a wife when she walked in the door. She respected her man. Her income was higher than his. You know, she was a commander at work, but when she walked through that threshold, she was girly husband's wife. And this is what he came back and told me. He said, wow, this is amazing how they turn it off. Now with let's say our women, that we are more familiar with, not necessarily race, but ones that we are more familiar with, what happens is that they're obedient at work to their bosses. They're obedient at school, you know, and when they come home, the obedience withers. And this is the point when you say settling for less, men are now have to settle for, in many cases, a woman that is pushing feminine doctrine, which is a carcinogen to family life. So yes, they are affected less, and we've seen how they know how to turn it on and turn it off. You know, they're like shapeshifters. Excuse me. They turn it off, and our women that we're more familiar with aren't able to turn it off. So we find ourselves, look, am I going to stay in this relationship or not? And not only women are quote unquote settling, as they say, men are also settling. So what does that do for society as a whole? It seems like we're all dissatisfied because we feel like we're all settling for less than the ideal.
And it's true. Everyone is, but unfortunately, we're still dealing with a scenario in which um, we're still dealing with a scenario in which the women aren't really told they need to step it up, and the men are. Now, I do admit that when it comes down to the scope or the extent to which the women believe and adopt this mindset, yeah, our women take the cake. The reason is that, and I'll just go ahead and use the racial terms here, not the insults, but just the racial descriptions. White women, to a certain extent, began to see that feminism was a political tool.
Yes.
The African American woman, and even some other melanated women in the West, and more increasingly outside the West, have begun to see feminism as an actual truth, similar to a religion. They've begun to see it as an objective truth that men are just oppressive of women right off the bat, all the time, hands down, no equivocation on it, no exceptions. So I would say that it's similar to Beyonce. Beyonce will talk about all of this empowerment and disillusionment, pretty much all of this but off from men, as you and I would understand it as Muslims. She'll sing that, get on stage and get on the field and sing this, and have these women fired up to just put men in their place and tell off any man. But she goes home to Jay-Z.
Yes.
Now, she doesn't, I mean, maybe she's upset if he goes and sleeps with Becky with the good hair. If he does or does not, she's going to sing about it either way. But she goes home to him. Well, if you take the Caucasian lady in the West, she's more likely to do that. She will talk all that smack. But if they make a decision at some point, if I want some security in life without having to labor, I'm going to have to cooperate with a man that can provide. Whereas in our case, Sister's going to say, or Sapphire is going to say, there's no way that a man's going to be able to provide. I know because I've worked in HR for all these years. I know because I've been hard on them in the workplace. I know because I myself am a threat to a heterosexual black man's job in the workplace. If I can get rid of him, I'll do it unless he plays ball, meaning plays feminism. I know the games I play on men in my personal life. And the minute that this man over here at work has something to say about that in a conversation, he's gone. I know. So I am the threat to the man that I would actually ideally want in my personal life. And so he's not going to be able to provide because I'm part of the machine that stops that. Therefore, she doesn't get that option. She doesn't give herself that option. And then there are increasingly Caucasian women that are growing old and alone and spinsters, and they're writing articles about this stuff. That's increasingly so. But for the most part, they're still behind the curve when it comes to sisters, meaning African-American sisters. African-American sisters have, for them, feminism was real. It wasn't even just a thing of politics. It was real. It was an objective, 100% real truth. It had to be that way, and push these men aside because they're no good. But I can't say that it's not affecting the Caucasian society because I've been sitting up on
At a lesser
rate.
at a lesser rate, that they're still getting married. They are having more success at marriage if you measure by just reality, not by any Islamic standard, of course, but they are two parent households at a higher rate. So this is what we're dealing with. So yes, it's affecting them, no doubt, because they are the authors of it. But it was I compare it to Christianity. Christianity, when it was concocted, it wasn't meant for anyone else but the well-to-do, But and the adverse effect that it had on the how do you say, lesser do wells, it wasn't the same effect. Now it's the same right now. If you go into a well-to-do neighborhood, you'll have one church per few miles. You may rarely see a church. You'll see one, then you may not see another one for quite a while. But in the impoverished, lesser do well parts of society. You have church, pawn shop, liquor store, church, pawn shop, liquor store, church. You know, they got churches right across the street from each other, looking at each other, competing for the same parking. You know, and this is what you see. So when they concocted Christianity, it was for them. Like I tell people, go to the picture Bible, open it up. What do you see? You can tell who it's for. They made it up for themselves, you know. So,
Yes.
so you know that's when they turned Jesus Caucasian. You can see where they were going with it. It was not meant for anyone else. Everyone else was to be enslaved by it. So, of course, the Negro still holds on to it today. Other minorities still hold on to it today. They still worship an effigy that does not reflect any quality that they have, and it produces superior, you know, inferiority to the superior. So this is what I'm saying. So yes, it's affecting them, but it's affecting those that didn't concoct it at a higher rate. But nevertheless, what I mentioned was I said there are eight qualities, eight Muslim qualities. Let's say a sister is looking for a husband, and I said there are eight Muslim qualities, but they're not to be confused with the four reasons Muhammad said people marry. You know, because when Muhammad said beauty, it also means sex. You know, the word nikah means to enter. You know, it also implies sex. That's why, you know, we don't believe in marital rape. We believe in abuse. There's abuse, you know, so we're not going to deny abuse. But as Muhammad said, do not abuse your wife and then expect to lay with her. So you can't put those two together. But we don't believe in spousal rape because the woman, upon the marriage contract, is supposed to satisfy her husband's needs to her ability. You know, it depends on her situation, monthly courses, all of that, all those different matters. But nevertheless, I said there are eight qualities when a sister is looking for a Muslim man, and I want to get from you, which one do you think that she'll sacrifice first, second, and third? Just three, okay? First is deen. Secondly, I said attractiveness. Third, I said nobility. Fourth, I said intimacy. Fifth, I said potency, the ability to have children. Sixth, I said maintenance, finances, right? Okay. Seventh, I said protection. And the eighth, I said leadership. So which of those 1, 2, and 3 you think that a woman would sacrifice first and foremost?
Well, in my experience, mind you, I grew up as a non-Muslim but became a Muslim as an adult. But
Yes.
in my experience, in most of my youth in the West, the deen will be not only the first thing they'd sacrifice, but there are many that look to make sure they don't find too much of it in the same man. I mean, there are many that actually don't want a man to be too religious. That's what I saw that more as a
Among Muslims, do you find, or just general?
Well, what I mean is that before I became Muslim, I saw this more among the when I was a non-Muslim, but I knew some Muslims. They may have been minnows, which you would call Muslim in name only, M-I-N-O.
Okay.
Now, in those cases, yeah, they weren't looking for the religious Muslim, but the practicing Muslim. But when I became a Muslim, I noticed that. I still noticed that in a subtle way, they were still looking to sacrifice deen for the other things. Because, see, if you're a practicing Muslim man, especially add to that being a heterosexual black Muslim man in the States, there's going to be a limit to how much you can earn from somebody else. The ways to get around it are, of course, you start a business and nobody knows that you're a business. Something of that nature. But right off the bat, people can see you applying for jobs. You're the last one they want to hire. You're practicing, you're Muslim. On top of that, you're black and heterosexual. If you weren't Muslim and you're black and heterosexual and you're a man, as I said before, the job market cooperates to keep you out, shut you out, and underpay you. And African-American women have been the ones that work in HR are usually a part of that. That's how they get into HR. I found that out the hard way in 2010. But the thing is that because of that, I think a lot of Muslim women have understood, even if they're not of your and my ethnicity. A lot of Muslim women have understood that serious practicing brother, he doesn't really make as much. So they will go ahead, and if they have a choice between marrying a doctor who prays late, and it's not because he's got a patient open up in front of him either. I understand that, but like just he prays late so that he doesn't have to pray in front of people at the hospital, and a practicing Muslim who's got his little shop and he prays the prayer as soon as he finishes that business transaction when he hears the adhan. She's going to pick the one that doesn't pray because chances are he's going to keep more money. He's not. She understands that if he starts praying on time at work, he's going to lose that money. So I have to say that in my experience, and I hope to be wrong, other people may have seen differently, but to answer your question fairly and honestly from my own experience, it's been the religion that they will put aside, they will sacrifice that first. And for the longest too. Now, maybe after that, it will be leadership. But I've seen where they'll leave a man, even if they're strong and independent. I've seen where they get tired of a man that doesn't lead as well. I've seen both happen. So first one I'd have to say is Dean. And I can't say, I mean, I've seen where guys do the same thing too, but with the men, I've seen it go off and on. I have, whereas, I mean, I haven't seen that a woman being practicing makes her unattractive per se. Whereas with a man being practicing, it makes him unattractive to the woman in general. And so that's why I was answering the way that I am. What did you see, sir? What did you observe out there where you live?
Well, I say when a woman of these 8 qualities a Muslim man may possess, as far as their ideal mate, I think that the first thing that they usually sacrifice is it's a tie for me. It's a tie between nobility and dean and leadership. I'm kind of, I feel like those kind of float around the same level because what happens is that, subhanAllah, it's like what Shadid Muhammad said. I keep repeating. He said that, we were talking about looking for people on social media as mates. And he was like, well, he doesn't recommend that. But, if you do meet somebody, go to their social media, after the fact. He said people tend to be themselves there, There's a bit of anonymity, which is not Islamic. There's a bit of anonymity that allows them to function that way, So, I mean, when it comes to sin, not necessarily virtue, because you can be anonymous in virtue in sadaqah and things like that. But we're talking about people that want to, as this lady with Catholic Charities once told me when I was helping her with some Bosnian refugees and getting them acclimated into the Muslim community. She said, what if they want to do a little sin? That's what the Catholic lady told me. What if they want to do a little sin? And she almost got slap. But nevertheless,
Okay.
Dean, nobility, and leadership tend to be the first 3 things that are sacrificed. The brother may not be so religious. Sisters will post on social media, I want a brother that's on his deen, but also a little hood. Oh, so you're going to be calling the masjid saying he hit you. You're going to be calling the masjid saying you don't know where your husband is. He done left you for 3, 4, 5 days, or he's in jail. Can y'all help me bail him out? So they want somebody that's on deen, but yet a little hood. I don't know how they go between the two. Now, what I have from hood, I still retain my ability to defend myself, so on and so forth. I retain that. I didn't drop that off as a Muslim, but I'm not going to put hood over deen. Nevertheless, when it comes to the nobility, not looking for noble people, man. I know sisters that they'll post pictures of men, Kafir men, even all tatted up and say, ooh, and other sisters be like, ooh, girl, ooh, child, that's a nobility factor. It's well known that people that indulge in tattoos, and Muhammad said they're cursed. Those that recommend it, those that design it, those that put the tattoo on, those that pay for it, those that seek it, have it done to them. So this is an issue of being cursed. So it's not an issue of nobility. People that are noble generally don't have tattoos. And just because I don't have a tattoo at all on my body doesn't mean I'm more noble than a person that may have a tattoo. It's because it's trending. It's like back in the day, we knew the loose girls or the girls we can get it from because of the way they dressed. Today, dressing like the sharamit, or the prostitute is common way of dress. So we can't separate the good girls from the bad girls now. You know, girl can be a virgin and she can dress like she's a woman of the night. So this is because of trend. And the last one, the leadership is really sacrificed because this person may not have any self-control. You can tell by the things again that they post on social media. You know, they don't have any self-control. So how can this person lead you? And women tend to look for a man's potential, meaning that a man that is malleable, he's pliable. You know, she can shift him and change him to fit her liking. But that's not leadership. See, a man should be stepping in, directing, you know, and organizing. A woman should not be seeking to lead a man. And when a woman says that, you know, I see potential in him, that's why I married him, that means that you already married him with the intent of molding him. And that's not leadership. You know what I'm saying? That's reverse. That's back to the feminist equality traits, you know, which does not exist in reality.
Well, when I came up, I do remember. I remember hearing a lot of ladies, well, young ladies. I mean, I'm talking, let's say starting in middle school. I remember hearing a lot of the girls in middle school saying, "What? I just like to dress like this. It doesn't mean I'm easy." I remember hearing a lot of them say this, and they sounded like they meant it at the time. Um, but by the same token, I remember reading in a magazine where it was one of those teen magazines, and one girl said, "I wore the sluttiest outfits for him, and he didn't even notice." And she
Yeah.
was angry about that. And so that kind of mixed message, that's one of the things that ruins their chances when they get older, when these women get older, because what they've done is they participated in sending mixed messages to men. And you and I both know that mixed messages, the longer a man is exposed to mixed messages, the more turned off he can get. I mean, we already grow older anyway as it is. But then you factor in decades of mixed messages. Hell, by 25, a man could say, "You know what? I think it'll be easy to live alone." Um, and then 35, a man may say, "I don't even think I could adjust to living with anybody."
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, if you have been by yourself up until that point, up to about age 35, the only thing a woman can offer you is below the waist. That's it. There is really nothing else they can bring to the table to enhance your life, unless, of course, they're going to play that traditional role, which is exactly what the Western liberated woman looks down on and refuses to play. So they have. That's why I said they brought this on themselves. See, when you were coming up, when you grew up, you said that you could tell who was who, so you know who was easy. Um, I came up Huxtable. And like you, I had to put that Huxtable, just like you had to put the hood beneath the revelation of Allah. I also had to put that Huxtable upbringing beneath the revelation of Allah. We all have to do that. Whatever our culture is, whatever upbringing is, we have to put that second to the revelation. We don't always do a good job, but that's still what the duty is. The proper order is still what Allah commands first, and then within those limits, how we've been influenced previously. But coming up Huxtable, it was the mixed message. And so ironically, it's oftentimes the guys I've seen that came up like me that either married young or they said, "I'm not marrying at all." So more and more of them actually starting to say, "Well, I'm going to leave. I'm just going to leave them by themselves." So I got a childhood friend that he got married. His wife just one day decided she wasn't happy anymore. You know what that means.
Yes. Yes.
You can understand what that means. So she wasn't mean about it. He said that they didn't have any falling out or anything. It was peaceful, but it was sudden. It was unexplained. There was no reason for it. And so what he did was, of course, they went through the divorce, and then he went just buck wild on our home city. He had his child out of wedlock after the marriage. He was married, divorced, then had his daughter. And then that's just one example. He pretty much said, "I'm not married again. I don't mind having girlfriends. That's fine, but I'm not going in front of the courts again, because once you put that wedding ring on her finger and you sign that contract in front of the state, they can do what they want. And he pretty much said, if I had been married to my wife for longer, it would have been even worse. But fortunately for him, she wanted to leave early on when she couldn't necessarily rake him over the coals or take anything from him. And she wasn't even malicious like that. She didn't want to, but he understood the risks because he's been dealing with attorneys because of a different issue that has nothing to do with marriage. It's an employment issue, but he's been dealing with attorneys, and not one of them has suggested that he get married. And so that's just one example. Another one in the same neighborhood. And mind you, before I became Muslim, I saw both of these guys run a train on the same lady. So part of it also was that they've lost trust. That's the other thing too.
Yeah.
There's a trust level that's gone. And so it's not just on the part of men. It's not just that men think, well, I got to settle for a smaller butt than I want, or I got to settle for worse cooking skills than what I would like. It's not just that. See, when men got to settle, it's because they already know that many of the ladies are untrustworthy. We don't know how many are trustworthy, but we know that many are not. We know how good they are at appearing to be trustworthy, which anybody dishonest about anything would try to appear to be. But we've seen how well the untrustworthy ones appear and blend in with the rest of the crowd. And then we also understand that they can get away with it. Nobody's going to take them to task for it. See, my friend that had his daughter out of wedlock after he divorced his ex-wife, had her with a girlfriend, that friend didn't cheat. All these years he'd been a playboy, he got married, he didn't cheat. Now, I'm not saying I was with him 24 hours a day, but pretty much everybody else said his schedule, it wasn't in his schedule like that. He went home, he would go to work, he'd go home. So somewhere down the line, she found something else and just decided, I'm not going to play around on my husband, at least not anymore, and she left him. But the thing is that he learned even then, even without the malice, there's still the fact that there's no reason for them to stay.
Michael Jordan's wife hired a private detective to spy upon him for years, upwards almost 10 years. She spied upon him and paid this private eye. And she got enough stuff on him that when it was time for divorce, she could really, really cash out. But she was waiting for his stock to grow. So I wouldn't say that she was faithful the whole time. It's not within these particular type people, within their wheelhouse, to be faithful the entire time while they think they're being cheated on. Even, I've heard Muslim sisters saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I can do it too. So even though she hired the private eye, he was busy living his life. Now, the problem is they marry the Michael Jordans, they married the Tiger Woods, they married these individuals, and they married the Jay-Z's, as you mentioned, and they expect to, again, be a leader. But one thing like about Beyonce, which you mentioned, is that she makes the songs. She has the cult following. They call them the Beehive, right? So she has all of that, but her husband allegedly cheats, allegedly had a child out of wedlock, allegedly this, allegedly that, and she's there. They say when her sister attacked him in the elevator, it was because of his, quote unquote infidelity. But she married that dude as a power move. I wouldn't be surprised if they catch her cheating, but I'm saying she married him as a power move. He's not as attractive as you think Beyonce would want. Even though her feet look like his face, but the point, I'm a foot dude, so if your feet are wrong, I'm good with you. I'm saying, so but anyway, this is what you have, and these people are making power moves and making better decisions. A lot of the people that we talk about of the well-to-dos, or the people on the upper caste system of Catholic society, these people tend to function in a way for the children. If they have children, they function in a way for the children. They're looking at the bigger picture. They may not be faithful to each other, but in front of the children, they show love and consideration and cooperation because they're not trying to scar the children unnecessarily. And I know people that as soon as their children went off to college, they divorced like right away. But it was already in the making. They made a decision. We're not going to show the children this bad side. But it seems like with Muslims, we have adopted the worst of what society is dishing out, to where we are scarring the children, we are traumatizing the children, we're using the children against each other. So again, that deals with the leadership issue. The first leader is Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If you're not following his sunnah, if you are not bought in and sold into Islam, you know, we're going to have a hard road ahead. Allah Ta'ala in his wisdom has designed this Sharia, you know, for us. This is our Sharia. We don't follow the Sharia of any other Nabi except Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. As Muhammad Sallam said, if Musa Alayhi Salam was alive during his time, he would follow the Sunnah of the Rasul Muhammad Sallallahu. So how even more, much more it's incumbent upon us to follow it. So we are off it. We are off it in so many different ways. So again, we're sacrificing qualities, we're settling for less. And what we end up with is, like you mentioned, deen first. And I said I was torn between deen, nobility, and leadership. What we end up with is no deen, and then the results that we experience and suffer from are just they're comparable to the kuffar, which is really, really sad, because the deen is so beautiful. It's organized by the one that created our nature and intellect. So if you think you can out intellectualize the one that created heavens and earth, then it's sadly mistaken. But again, to empower women over men, then you are putting subhanAllah, there's a direct conflict, because Allah Ta'ala has made us qawamun. He's made us governors, maintainers, protectors, managers of women. You know, when women are harmed, when women are accosted, when women are assaulted, they look toward the men to come and alleviate their stress. You know, but we are taken out of our leadership role by the powers that be, which rule every speck of dirt, every grain of sand upon this earth, you know, today, because the Muslims are lacking, you know, and lax in their responsibility. So what happens is affecting us as Muslim in a very, very bad way. SubhanAllah.
Yeah, it is. We're dealing with a scenario in which we've taken all of the bad and none of the good. If I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to lie about that. Yeah, we've taken all the bad and none of the good. I have to stop and ask myself, at what point are we ever going to take on any of the good? I'm not really sure that we're ever going to do it. But if they, I remember the hadith, of course, if they crawl into a lizard hole, then we would go with them. And that's the funny thing. In every hadith, I know of two of them where we were told about this, but in every hadith, there's never a mention of them doing anything good, and then we imitated them in this.
Exactly.
And so I guess I'm not really surprised, to be honest, because I read it and I knew it was a sound hadith when I read it, and I'm not even that intelligent. I'm not a scholar or a student. I just I knew that because of the ranking of it. But I'm just surprised to see how much of it is coming true just in less than 2 decades since I've become Muslim. I'm just shy of 2 decades at it, and how much I've seen since that time is what shocks me. It's the quantity and the speed, not so much that it ever happened at all. And so I'm seeing it, and I'm in shock from it because it happened so soon. Like, it's like I take my shahada, and then 4 years later, I see this happening at a political level and even at a cultural level. And then another 2 years later, I hear about how even in the Muslim world, on their sitcoms that they have, that the practicing Muslim is depicted as stupid and clumsy.
Yes.
And so they start to associate a big beard with all manner of ineptitude and corruption.
Yes.
And then before you know it, they view the so-called third world the same way that we viewed the third world living in the first world through television. But it could have been avoided. And again, this comes down to a lot of times many Muslims who migrated to the West not being willing to listen to the other victims of oppression. They weren't willing to learn something. That's when a lot of Muslims said, okay, we're going to have wala and bara, and we're not going, they're not Muslim. These other oppressed people aren't Muslim, so we're not going to listen to what they say. They're just complaining too much. That's when the Muslims had it, at a time when it would have actually been beneficial to fuck the shuck up and start listening. And I didn't curse just now. That was a spoonerism,
Yeah,
but
I
that would have
got
been the
it. I
best
got
time.
it. I got it.
But that's when that's when Muslims didn't, and that led to a lot of divisions in between the Muslims. And now, as a direct result of that, we're seeing even Muslims get affected. Muslims who were not African American or Western by heritage get affected by this gender war as well. And so, the daughter grows up, Canada or stateside or the UK, and she may remember that when she was 5, all the talk was on the husband's rights and the wife's responsibility. But since then, the pendulum swung the other way, and she's there for it. And now all she hears about is the husband's responsibilities and the wife's rights. And so,
Yes,
before you know it, they've taken on the opposite of chauvinism. And because the greater society that surrounds them is going to give them all manner of push and support for that, they turn around and they do that. And now you've got a scenario in which, and I think you may have seen this on one of the posts in the group, in which a gentleman named Thamar suffers from his wife that became a feminist and then eventually left Islam and took his kids from him
yes, yes,
and wiped him out and cleaned him out. The difference is he can't tell anybody about it because nobody will care. Nobody's going to back him up. Whereas his ex-wife can make up any lie she wants to, and she can hit the lecture circuit and become rich, make all manner of money, and still hit him up for child support. And this does come about. This is a result of the Muslims imitating non-Muslims, even at times when a lot of non-Muslims didn't want us to do that.
yes.
And here's the result. So yeah, it's true. The family is going to suffer for it. And now I understand why there's a hadith that says that when the Antichrist comes, the men who are the wisest men are going to be the ones that want to tie up their daughters and their mothers and their sisters to the house so that they don't leave and go out and join them.
Yes, yes. I spoke about that. The majority of the followers of Ad-Dajjal would be Jews and women, because Ad-Dajjal will offer them fantasies. He will offer them, to bring the dead back to life, and loved ones, and it'll be a jinn taking the form of their loved one, and they'll fall for the okie doke. And even though Muhammad prophesied it and he warned them of it, they will still follow Ad-Dajjal. You know why? Because they don't indulge themselves in study of the deen. So even though he has kafir on his forehead, clearly the bulging eye and things like that are other signs of him, people will still fall headlong into following him. And this is a problem that we have. So deen definitely is sacrifice, and the basics of it are sacrifice, and we are not upon our deen intellectually and also in application. But as far as the 8 Muslimah qualities, I mentioned if a man is looking for a Muslimah, the 8 qualities that she may have are deen, okay, attractiveness, nobility, intimacy, okay, which is similar, comparable to the men, right? Now we go into fertility, tranquility, submissiveness, and balance. Which of those do you find men sacrificing as far as looking for today's Muslimah women?
That one's harder for me only for one reason, and that is that when a man was about to get married, and I knew about it, I usually I wouldn't ask many questions about who he chose to marry because I didn't want to pry.
Yes.
And I had to respect the privacy of the sisters. But from what little bit I know, non-practicing men would immediately sacrifice deen. They weren't. If you're not a practicing man, you're not really looking for the practicing Muslima unless she comes on to you. But the practicing and non-practicing alike, what I saw them, I would even say sacrifice. But maybe we have to call it that. I saw them never consider obedience. That's what I never saw them consider, obedience. The
submissiveness. Okay.
That's because again, I grew up in the West and I lived there up until about 7 years ago, and that's one thing that we were not as Western men in general, Muslim or not, any race, we were just not trained to look for them to submit and do what we told them to do. So on one hand, wealth was not something we were trained to look for because most people don't have it. And as we knew, wealthy women wanted wealthy men anyway. So yeah, I'd say wealth and obedience were the things that we just weren't even taught to look for. And no one ever told me to look for that, to be honest with you. When I finally put myself on the marriage market, if you want to call it that, as a Muslim, no one ever said to me, it's important that she do what you tell her to do as long as you're taking care of your responsibilities. No one said that. I was never told that, and I regret that to this day.
So these what I found with these 8 Muslim equalities. Now I find that past experiences have a bearing on it. I find that age has a bearing, so on and so forth. Like for instance, Dean, Muhammad SAW married 3 Jewish women. Now this was political maneuver. He would neutralize the whole entire Jewish tribe because the father-in-law, it was taboo for in their understanding, it was taboo for the father-in-law to fight the son-in-law. So by marrying these Jewish women, he dignified their tribe, and of course because of Kawasihi, exclusivity to Muhammad SAW as a prophet, and because they become Mu'mineen, they had to take Shahada. That was part of the marriage negotiation, that they had to become Muslim, and the father would sign off on it, and the woman would be willing to, give her Shahada. So Sahaba like Uthman ibn Affan, radiallahu anhu, so on and so forth, they marry non-Muslim women, things of that nature. So you say, well, they're supposed to marry for deen. Well, Allah says, "Fankihu mataba lakum min nisa." Marry who you like among the women. He didn't say marry who you like among the believing women. He said marry who you like among the women, who you choose. Mataba, those that are suitable, that you find suitable to you. So again, there is potential for deen. There is political maneuver and things like that. And again, at the end of the day, Muhammad SAW said he recommended deen. And when he indeed married the 3 Jewish women for deen, it was to advance the deen and to advance the Muslim ummah. You know what I'm saying? So, but in this time, you find men that have become frustrated because they find a lot of the traits of the kuffar with the Muslim women, So what do they say? They say, man, I might as well get me a fine kafir. You know what I'm saying? Of course, a kafir that's lawful, a fine kafir. I mean, this I'm telling you what the brothers are saying. These are men talking. Women don't like to hear that. Women say, oh, no, that's just you. I talk to the men. Men are not going to open up to you like they open up to me, Nevertheless, I talked to a brother last night. This is a good Muslim brother. I would marry my daughter to him. Okay? I would marry my daughter to him. So when I say good, I'm not blowing smoke. Okay? Love this brother, mashallah. So this brother right here is like, man, I'm thinking about marrying a kafir. And I say, man, get you a Mexican. SubhanAllah. I told him, I said, get you a Mexican, man. I say the way a lot of them are raised, they tend to just fall into whatever husband is upon. If they find a man that's about something, they fall right in line. I say this is my general experience. Not all of them, of course, but if you're gonna do a crapshoot, you might as well aim for the highest percentage. So again, attractiveness. Me personally, I'm not a big face dude. I'm not big on face. Waist and feet. I'm good with that. But I'm not a big face dude. But attractiveness, men are going to have qualities about themselves the women may not necessarily like, and the women will have qualities the same way. But if we're looking for a Muslim, there's only a certain amount of attractiveness you can see. Now, of course, we know it's sunnah to spy on a woman that you're interested in. You can't look through her shubakin. You can't look through her window. But you definitely can hide behind trees and buildings. And you can watch her at the masjid until you see a part that you may like. And this is from the sunnah of Rasul Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Actually, it's from Taqriri. He approved of a sahabi doing this. So attractiveness, right? Nobility. We're not trying to marry women. We're not really. I'm saying I'm talking about today time, really in this society, really not looking for nobility, because we feel like we can't find it. Nobility is 2-parent household minimum. You know what I'm saying? 2-parent household where, and it's better if she was raised by several co-wives too. The mom and the co-wives. I know a lot of women that were raised like that. That still depend on their co-wives like moms. But never their husbands' co-wives like moms. Nevertheless, nobility seems to be lost with a lot of us. We're not looking for nobility. This society, we don't even know what nobility is. We think if the dad drives a nice car, lives in a nice neighborhood, that's nobility. No, that's not nobility. That's not nobility. But nevertheless, a two-parent household where they actually have strong family ties, they are practicing the deen, so on and so forth as a family. This is something we should look for. But again, this is being sacrificed. Intimacy, well, you really can't know that until after you marry them. You can't know about their levels of intimacy. And we tend to get caught up because, we're not from a Muslim background for us being raised, right? I became Muslim when I was 20 years old. I've been Muslim 30 years now. So what happens is, what happens is that we people tend to talk to the sisters and kind of give hints. What do you like? And she might say, what do you like? And I heard sisters ask brothers, what size are you and all that. Like, I mean, come on, give me a break. This right here is not going to keep two individuals together. This is going to, when it's time, like the brother Jawaz will say, when it's time to make the juice, that matters at that particular time. Before as getting married, talking about intimacy, if you can't discuss it with her wali or wakil, man, I don't think you should be talking about it, because what that does, it produces a euphoria. It releases chemicals in your brain that makes you really want to marry her, but it's not a long-term thing. As soon as you satisfy your desire, then, you come back down to reality. One alim said that once the penis goes up, half of the mind goes away. And I argued with him that 80% of the mind goes away. Because, the blood, you need blood. Blood carries oxygen, to the brain as well. When the blood goes to your midsection, then you have less oxygen for your brain. So that's why you're not thinking correctly, So intimacy, you can't sacrifice that because you don't know that. But then we want women to talk loose, in the DMs, and men talk loose in the DMs, and we try to find somebody that we're compatible to on our freaky side. And this is not the way marriages last or are built, because all of that is learned behavior. And if she knows too much, you start questioning, man, where did she learn that from? You know what I'm saying? She ain't get it from her daddy, And with the man is really not a question as far as where he gets his skill from. Fertility, a certain age, men don't want children. I know young brothers that don't want children because they seen what their father went through, what their brothers or their companions went through. As far as when you throw in the children factor, how they suffered, man. I'm trying to get one of mine. I'm trying to get one of mine with me by Sharia rule. And that's going to be a hard hill to climb. Because the kuffar gonna get involved eventually because I have no Islamic standing with another Muslim. SubhanAllah. So again, fertility, I'm still about having kids. I'm gonna keep having kids until I die. Be in the lab, but I'm an idiot. So tranquility. Allah Ta'ala says He created us. He created Adam alayhi salam and took from him his rib. It made Eve a part of him, DNA, whatever, and made Eve so that they may taskanu, so that they may have tranquility. And this is something that, can this person make me or make my existence with them tranquil? Can they make it tranquil? Because we're missing tranquility in our relationships. There's too much friction. You're out in the streets, you're fighting this, fighting that, and then all of a sudden what happens? You come home and there's another fight. It's not something that we should be indulging in. We have to push for tranquility. Are you willing to make me happy? Which take me to what? Submissiveness. Are you willing to be about me? Are you willing to be about me? That's what needs to be discussed. Are you willing to be about me? Because if you're about me, I'm going to be about you. And by that, it moves me to the next one, the balance. You're being 100% woman, created for me, 100% man, and by that we got 200. See, we didn't surpass a 50-50, 100%. We're now at 200. We're doing twice as better than the 50-50 couple, because we are giving ourselves to the relationship, for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala, and He's giving Himself to the relationship for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala, and by them together doing so, then we have a balance there. And when we say settle for less, as far as the Muslim qualities, I'm looking at them. You can sacrifice fertility because you might be of an age you don't want children, or she may not be able to have children. You know, a lot of times you sacrifice intimacy because you have a friendship there, a genuine friendship. You know, you sacrifice attractiveness because uh, I mean, who's that for? That's for you. And she may have parts about her that you really, really love, and the other parts you may not be attracted to, but alhamdulillah, she's covered. So ain't nobody else is in that. Ain't nobody else is in that business. But the balance, the submissiveness, the tranquility, you know, it cannot be sacrificed. It cannot be sacrificed. And again, with Deen, sometimes there's potential for Deen. You know, sometimes there's potential for Deen, and sometimes women don't like to hear this. Sometimes a man just want a wife. You know, sometimes you can find a wife in a Christian or a Jew. You know, sometimes a man just want a wife without all the this and that. I don't want to have a tug of war when Allah and His Messenger have been clear upon an issue. And that's what we find. There's too much of a tug of war. I like to come home and know what I'm expecting beyond my threshold. You know, and again, this is just me. But like I said, the age, the experiences, so on and so forth, they're going to differ with men when juggling these 8 Muslim equalities.
Well, I've heard about what we're supposed to do and who we're not supposed to marry. I'd heard about this years ago, and I won't front. I knew about some guys that married non-Muslim women, and in every case that I knew about, they regretted it. I heard stories about how men married non-Muslim women, and then these non-Muslim women would become impressed, and then they would accept Islam. I knew of one case like that. It was just one case I knew of like that. I know the brother. He's in Atlanta. He married after some years, and she and he had a daughter that was a friend of my daughter. They played together, but eventually she did accept Islam. However, she also got sick too, and she got really sick, and that's when she accepted it. But in the West, I knew why it was that there were brothers that would say, well, marry a Muslima. I understood that. I thought that the Muslim women that said this were saying it for the same reason until I joined the group. I forgot the name of the group I joined with you. I left it though. You already know I left it after I saw it was just too much mess, and how it was the sisters arguing with you when you weren't saying anything that was out of pocket. And I thought, well, okay, if he married a non-Muslim, he knows what the rules are. He knows about the ones we cannot marry. So it doesn't stand to reason. I can't just assume that he would have just grabbed one of them that we can't marry and then married her. Now, the ones that we can marry are very, very rare. They're in the churches or they're in the synagogues during a lot of their free time. But it's not to say they don't exist. They're just rare. However, I had to understand that it wouldn't stand to reason. I could not just assume that you went and married one of those that we're not allowed to. So which one was more reasonable, that you went and married one you're not allowed to, or that you found one we're allowed to marry that was rare and you went ahead and married her? And it dawned on me that the sisters were saying, don't marry non-Muslim women for a completely different reason than what a lot of brothers were saying this when I was a new Muslim. I would have said years ago, brothers, don't do that. Don't marry these non-Muslim women because they'll do whatever they can get away with. And I believed it. And even now, to a certain extent, I do believe it, because most of the ones that these brothers are marrying are just your run-of-the-mill non-Muslim, your nominal Christian, maybe your nominal Jew, but certainly your nominal Christian. Or they marry someone that was a Hindu or a Buddhist, God forbid, not even people of the book. But
that's not a marriage. That's not a marriage.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we understand Shari'i, and that's not one. But it dawned on me, okay, see, this is bad. The feminism has jumped into something I kind of knew, but I didn't know the extent till I jumped into that group. The feminism has jumped into the Muslims of the West to the point that they can't agree on basic things, and they're running the Muslim men into the arms of non-Muslim women. And so now I get it, and I hate to say it, but if they're going to continue acting this way, what puts them in check for their own good, not for ours? What puts them in check for their own good? Well, options. A man having options is what puts them in check. There's pretty much nothing else except for that. And that's why in the US, really, I would tell Muslim men, don't even marry in front of the court system in the States, because the feminists know what that means and they're going to use that. There's nothing to stop them. Why not? And they don't even have to think that they're feminists to have that mindset. So the best thing to do is have options. And the best way to have options is, number one, you don't marry in front of the court system over there if you can help it. Number two, you will marry someone else. And if they cut a fool, then you're going to marry another one, whether she's Muslim or not, as long as she's a eligible person of the book. Now, I realize, in other words, that we have to keep that as an option. And we have to let them know we're going to keep that as an option, largely for the sisters' own good, so that they have some idea how to act. Because nothing is stopping them except competition from just running roughshod over these men if they can do it. There's nothing to stop them except that.
You know what I find funny?
What's that?
I find funny that a man has 4 slots to fill. And this is another discussion. I don't know if you want to get in on this some other day, but the Malikat Aman, the companions of the right hand, the concubines, those are unlimited. Even when they talk about Muhammad Sallam didn't want Ali to marry a second wife on Fatima, right? Anha, Ali had Malikat Aman, and they were lawful for sex. It's just that they didn't have the stigma of marriage upon them. You know, although any offspring would be treated like, you know, it's like marriage because you're responsible for them. You're amana. So nevertheless, he had unlimited Malikat Aman. Those don't have a limit of 4. But for a Muslim man that marries a non-Muslim woman, he still has other slots. You know, he still has other slots to fill. And a lot of sisters, they feel like if a Muslim man marries a non-Muslim woman, you know, well, you didn't marry for deen, okay, you can say that. But does it make it unlawful? No, it doesn't make it unlawful. Okay, so he marries a non-Muslim woman, and then they say, well, you're taking Muslim men away. Well, he don't want you. The ones he know, he didn't want to marry. And that's what it means. فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. Marry those who seem suitable to you among the women. You know, so that man doesn't want you. If he marries a non-Muslim woman, he doesn't want you. Or maybe he was like I was at one particular time at a non-Muslim, and I had Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Wives. The Muslims didn't last. You know, they didn't last. You know, when a person is about deen, it's going to last. Or when a person is about you, it's going to last. You know, being about you without being psychotic, you know, it's going to last. Mm-hmm. When a person is about themselves, you know, when a person is about themselves and then they take the children, like for instance, my non-Muslim wife today, we have three children, you know, and she has, and she's, I really don't want to say, but she want to take Shahada. She contemplated take Shahada. I can make her take Shahada today. I can make her take Shahada last year if I wanted to. But it has to be in her own time, okay? Has to be in her own time. She has to take it when she's ready. I can't force or you know, or gerrymander that, you know. I can't rig that up. You know, it has to be on her own time because it's ashhadu. I am a witness. So that's something she has to say for herself. I can't say, tashhadu, you are a witness. I can't give her a shahada upon her. She has to take the shahada herself. So she wants to become Muslim. She's contemplating. She's bought hijab. She's looking at this. She's looking at that. She's contemplating becoming Muslim. That's in her own time. The dawah remains constant, you know. But nevertheless, she receives 5,600 in stimulus, right? Now,
okay,
I don't know any Muslim women that are doing this. I'm sure they're there. I'm just speaking about what I know, which is very limited. She receives 5,600. She gives it to me and said, put this up. So I put it up. And she says, babe, you know that's your money too. Those are your kids. But the Muslim, I can't even have business. She filed child support and then retracted it. So they sent me a letter from the Georgia Human Services that the child support has been retracted. I said, I never knew I was on child support. You know, she retracted it. Why? Because I have right to visitation. She doesn't want me to see my child. It's a baby. He's not even 1. It's a baby. He was born in July. You know, so this is the point I'm making. Like, you got 2 different extremes. I'm having problems here. on the Muslim side, and there's less problems on the Kafir side. So me being a human being, right? Because I was married to both of them at the same time. Me being a human being, where am I going to gravitate toward? Where am I going to find the most tranquility? Yeah, we can't pray together. Ramadan's coming. We can't fast together, you know? But nevertheless, I'm talking about I'm able to see my children, raise my children. You know, she bought my children hijabs. Of course, she can't teach them the deen. She wants to cover. She said, when they cover, I'm going to cover. I said, you know, okay, fine. You know, she's talking. I'll let her have her say. But nevertheless, I'm just using what we're going through these days with Muslim women. I expect to come home, and when my wife walks out the door, you know, with the Muslim woman, I expect her to be covered a certain way, you know, because that's already a given. That's her deen, not mine. I can't practice deen for her. And I expect that when she remarries, which she has, the Muslim one remarried, and I still can't see my child, you know. And her new husband say, look, man, I don't want to be in no drama. I realize your rights. I'll talk to her. But at the end of the day, nothing I can do. You know, that's what he said, you know. So again, he knows I support my child financially. I can show you screenshots. He knows. So the point he's saying that there's not much he can do. But nevertheless, I'm saying I'm going through that with a Muslim. I'm going through this with the Kafir. The Kafir saying, look, that stimulus is yours too. These are your kids. And I'm going with the Muslim that don't want to even put me on child support because they know with that going to come visitation. So, I mean, hey, we all have our own circumstances. I settled for less attractiveness. I settled for less in this. I settled for less in that. I just wanted the Muslim woman, you know. I wanted the Muslim woman. And it didn't work out. So now I'm in this situation. That's not saying I'm not going to marry another Muslim if I come across her, but I'm not looking. I'm not looking. And if this one becomes Muslim, alhamdulillah, you know. But that's on her own time.
Well, what you're dealing with, what you're now dealing with in honesty. See, if you by marrying a non-Muslima, the biggest risk would probably be what happened to Thamar.
Yes.
But that happened to him when he married a Muslim. And so we have to admit that just like the sisters will say, well, these Muslim men aren't even willing to be a better deal than the non-Muslim men. And they say that we insist on being worse than the Muslim men, which is really just a way to justify marrying a man who has more avenues to make money than us and who's not going to be as tested by Allah. That's really what that comes down to. But as they say that, and it's not necessarily the case, they're actually doing that on the opposite end. They are insisting on being a worse deal. And looking back, I had to admit that my son's mother, who's not Muslim, this is before I was Muslim. I was with her before I was Muslim. She actually behaved better than my daughter's mother, who's Muslim. I had to admit this. I had to understand this. And a lot of it, to a certain extent now, my daughter's mother did things that Muslims do. And so to a certain extent, there were things that she won out in. There were categories in which she was clearly the winner and by a long shot. But when it really came down to outside of worshiping Allah, but being a wife,
yes.
No, in all honesty, I had to admit that that the non-Muslim made a better girlfriend than the Muslima did a wife. And so, I mean, I have to look back and say, yeah, this is what wound up happening. Not that I'm proud about it. Not that I even want to say it, but because this is a truth I have to tell because this is happening to other people, your case included. This is also happening to you. So I got to admit that, okay, you dealt with this. Well, I know it's part of a pattern that exists because I went through the same pattern. And so now we do have Muslims that are not running their men off. What's going on with them is that they can see the ones that are running the men off, but they know if they say anything, in a worst case scenario, razor blades, like some kind of weapon is coming out. Best case scenario, they're going to get shouted down and interrupted because they're not allowed to finish a sentence. And
but they're also taking those women that are practicing deen and being a source of tranquility and balance for their husband. They're taken, and they only get one. They only get one husband. You know, with us. We tend to go on the hunt and the search, and we can have up to 4. You know, we're not in a position of Malikat a man. You know, we're not in a position of companions of the right hand because these are not war times, and we don't have an authority like that. But nevertheless, you know, we can have up to 4, and we continue to seek and search for tranquility and balance. You know, like I say, a woman a woman, the reason Allah Ta'ala, one of the wisdoms Allah Ta'ala allows us to marry Jews or Christians that are muhsanat. We'll talk about that inshallah in a minute. Reason we're allowed to marry them is because men are the leader. And when they recognize the leadership of a man, then what happens? They tend to become malleable. We have to start as malleable, then they become pliable, and they come over to what the man is upon, or at least they respect that. People assume there's pork in my house. My wife don't eat pork. You know what I'm saying? She says, Inshallah, Alhamdulillah, Subhanallah. She's on all that. But that's not Shahada, of course. But nevertheless, there's no pork in my house. She asked my permission before doing this. She does this. She does that. She does all of that. It doesn't make her Muslim, but it gives me a peace of mind. She learned submission. She learned to be about me. Okay, I'm about Deen. She's about me. She learned that, and the Muslim women that are upon that, they are already taken. You find sisters in situations like the situation I'm talking about. I found her in the projects with 2 children, but both of the men before, both 2 random dudes, they abandoned the kids. Right? None of them were born through marriage. None of them were on child support, as far as I knew. One of them was in the military, the last one. None of them was on child support that I knew. All of a sudden, I'm getting threats of child support. I'm like, wow, the Muslim? The Muslim that's here for his children, that take care of my child and yours, when they were here, you know what I'm saying? That played with them and put them in sports and all this different stuff. I'm the one that get threatened. I'm the one being treated the worst. So I'm like, I'm cool. I'm going to stick with the Kafir. She become Muslim, alhamdulillah, If she don't, alhamdulillah, that's by Allah Ta'ala's will, and that's her hellfire, So again,
And well,
what I'm going through.
it's the thing is, honestly, what you're dealing with from the Muslim is exactly what a lot of the non-Muslim men are dealing with from the disbelieving women.
Yes.
As well. When you are the nicer man out of several men and you're taking care of the children you didn't conceive, then you're being treated worse, because the woman that benefits from this views you as being inferior to the men that wouldn't do these same things.
Yes.
When a woman does that, whether she's Muslim or not, when a woman treats worse the men that treat her the best, she already views herself as inferior. She views herself as ain't crap or less than crap. So you're dealing with a woman, and granted, women, even Muslims could say, well, Imam Saad, you should have picked better. They could say that theoretically. But we have to admit that when it comes to women, they actually get options, Muslim or not. They get options when it comes to men. And a Muslim woman actually has a clearly defined right to send somebody to a man to inquire about him.
Yes.
It's a clearly defined right. It was not abrogated with the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Khadija did it before his prophecy when she was older and wealthier than he was.
Yes.
And when she had wealthy men asking for her hand in marriage, she did this. She did exactly everything that liberated women will say they have a right to do and then will not do. She practiced hypogamy. That's just something that liberated women will tell you they've got a right to do, but they won't necessarily do that, especially when it comes to marriage.
Really quick. One thing about Khadija, women may not want to hear this, but she inherited that business from her ex-husband. She didn't build it. Also, men ran her business. You have to understand the society she was living in. She owned the business, but men ran that business. It's the same with Musa alayhi salam helping the 2 daughters water their sheep, water their goats, because the men were bullying the water hole. So Musa alayhi salam stepped up and helped them. Later on, the man heard about his nobility and wanted to marry him to one of his daughters. So again, women don't want to hear that. But Khadija, indeed, anha, she inherited that business from her husband as inheritance, and men ran that business. If you don't think men ran that business, you don't understand pre-Islamic, Mecca. SubhanAllah. Anyway, continue, Akhi.
Well, and you know what? Thanks for letting me know about that. I'd heard that she was believed to be. I'd heard that according to most narrations, she was 40 at the time.
Yes.
And then according to some others who knew her better, she was 28. So I've heard about a discrepancy in how old she was, which I also heard about with regards to Aisha radiallahu anha. And I'm not going to sit up and argue with the scholars about what the age was. But what I'm simply saying is that that there's not a guarantee, at least not an incontroversial guarantee, that she was even that much older than him. Nonetheless, what is understood is that she was older than him and she
Yes.
had more money than he did. And
Yes.
she proposed to him, which is every single thing that women want the right to do, but don't actually have the nerve to do.
Yes.
And so that's when they're Muslim or not. But in a nutshell, what you were dealing with was a scenario in which a woman looks at herself as not being worthy. And therefore, you treat her like she's worthy and you treat her kids by another man very well. And you take them in as a dad would do. And she looks and says, well, why is he doing this? She's questioning, she's asking the same questions in the back of her mind that now many red pilled Muslim and non-Muslim men alike in certain groups on Facebook are beginning to ask themselves out loud and consciously, why would I do this? And so it may very well be that we have to create an environment. If the non-Muslim men want to cooperate with us in this, and they seem to want to, then we're in no position to stop them anyway. But we Muslim men certainly may need to create an environment in which we say, well, if we're going to do these things that are not even remotely in our interest, what are you going to bring to the table to make it worthwhile, to make it worthwhile for us to do, to make it even reasonable? Not so much because we're just selfish and we're animals and we have this instinct to commit infanticide on other men's kids. We're not like that. We're not gorillas and we're not lions. But because in the back of their mind, they simply can't appreciate that type of thing. That's what you were dealing with. She couldn't appreciate it. She saw what you were doing. She knew you were looking after another man's kid and you weren't being mean about it. And she's asking in the back of her mind, why would he do it? This means that she's assessing you through the eyes of an animal, sir. Muslim or not, that's what she was doing. And that's what she's still doing to this day. And so now she puts you, and like you said, she had the kids with other men and she didn't put them on child support. Is that what you said a few minutes ago?
Exactly. Even one in the military where she can get medical benefits and everything, he's not even on child support. And he's allowed to call and he was on speakerphone. I say, why is he on speakerphone? Let him talk to his child. Why are you listening to the conversation? I said, that's you in that conversation. Mm-hmm. She was telling me he called and he said this. I said, how'd you know he said all that? I mean, the man ain't paying. I'm paying the bills. He ain't paying no bills. He in the military. And this happened. Y'all were in Jahiliyyah, I think. So again, it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's all about the power that the system gives to the people that are supposed to be protected, by the men. So the system becomes the man. The system becomes the man, and the husband becomes, the sex toy, I guess. I don't know what role the husband plays, above the system. But I want to mention the Muslim. Go ahead, Aki. Go ahead real quick.
I could answer your question about what role the husband plays in regards to the system. The husband starts off as an ATM with a penis. Eventually, the husband becomes an ATM without a penis, and then becomes the ex-husband. Still, and if she can get the ex-husband to be that, then she'll get the ex-husband to be to continue being the ATM without the penis. Those are the three steps: ATM with a penis, ATM without a penis, ex-husband, and if possible, still an ATM without a penis. And that's what happened between OJ and Nicole Brown Simpson.
Yeah.
Now, I'm of the theory that it was his son that killed her and not him. Some detectives had that theory, and I'm one of those.
Yeah.
His hands were smaller than OJ's. He would have been able to fit the glove.
Yeah. Access to the shoes.
Exactly. Access. He was known to have a hot temper, and OJ is actually known to not really be that temperamental. So I do think that OJ was willing to look guilty so as to keep the attention off his son.
Yeah.
But that it was his son that did it. And to be honest with you, now that I know what I know about the red pill, I don't feel a guck if the son killed her or if OJ had done it. I wouldn't care.
Because I don't care either way.
Exactly. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly don't. And I'll tell you why it doesn't really bother me whatever happened to her one way or another. And that is because she left him, and I think she claimed abuse, but the first wife said no, he wasn't abusive.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the stereotypical case that causes a lot of men, Muslim or not, to go into the red pill. She said abuse, despite evidence that he didn't commit that. Of course, split, took half his stuff, was still collecting alimony, was cavorting with a younger guy, spending the ex-husband's money on the younger man and would not marry the younger man because then she would have not
Yeah.
qualified anymore for alimony as a newly married bride.
Yes.
So, and she was doing all of this with the body that OJ bought for her from the doctors.
Yes.
So, in all honesty, if I had been him, I'm like Chris Rock. If I had been him, I don't think I would have done it in, but I can't say that I wouldn't. In all honesty, every time, like half of everything I get, I'm supposed to pay out to her. I got to keep paying her alimony, and I get none of the rights of the husband, but I still got the responsibility.
California law.
Gone to an Exactly. I probably would have gone to another. How long was she with him, if you remember? I don't remember. I'm just asking.
Man, I don't. I forgot. I know that when I was going over a bridge, going toward the masjid when the verdict was announced, and I'm not into all that, but when the verdict was announced and they said not guilty, I was honking my horn, and other people started honking their horns, and because I was on the hood side of town, where the masjid was, so we honking our horns, and it for I don't know, they may be honking their horns because a black man got off and all this kind of stuff. I was honking my horn because finally the system took it, the system finally got kicked in the balls, That's why I was honking my horn. I say good. You know what I'm saying? Good. These corrupt cops that had an open and shut case as they saw it, still fiddling with the evidence. And still tampering with evidence. Still planting evidence. Still hiding the facts of their true sentiment toward OJ and things like that. Finally the system took a kick. And it took a kick from, one of the people that's not part of the system. So again, that's why I honked my horn. I was happy because of that. So again, as far as how long they were together and things of that nature, man, look, we laugh and joke. OJ did it. OJ didn't do it. Jamie Foxx got some good stuff. Dave Chappelle got some good stuff about OJ. It's really funny, But that California law, man, I've heard some stuff about it. It is brutal toward the man. It is brutal. I don't understand why people get married. Even they don't even respect prenups, bro. Everybody talk about prenups. California law has an issue with prenups.
They do. And the thing is, it takes a decade. In most cases, it takes a decade under California law, or at least it did a few years ago. It was a decade of marriage to qualify for alimony. Their marriage lasted 7 years. And she still, for what I heard, she was getting alimony. But it was largely due to these accusations of abuse. And she told the detective that he had not hit her in 4 years. The last time that somebody was called out, a sergeant or a detective got her, recorded her saying, and she didn't know, but recorded her saying that she hadn't been hit in 4 years. But she said he gets this animalistic look about him. Well, I mean, we know what that is.
Well, yeah, we know. We're born with that from the babies. Exactly. This is why they shoot.
Right, exactly. They're trained not to see us as human.
Exactly.
And to a certain extent, we're trained as well to not see each other that way. But I mean, their fear. Well, anyway, that's a different topic. But I'm simply saying that she said this to a sergeant or one of the deputies that went out when she called 911, but he didn't hit her, and she said he had not done so in 4 years.
Yes, exactly.
So whether she was really scared or not, I'm not sure. But somehow, what everybody was saying, everybody that knew them was saying, yeah, he was paying alimony. How did he get stuck with alimony after less than a decade?
Yeah.
Unless there was something else that she was using, so that she would enhance her qualification for it under the law.
Well, but also he could have volunteered it though. There's another aspect. He could have volunteered alimony because he had so much money. He's like, just go ahead, And I think he was still maybe enjoying her, to a certain extent, because she had that reputation. They say Marcus Allen and a lot of other, OJ, his football buddies were enjoying her as well. But of course, all that is rumor. But I want to get to this point about al-muhsanat. Okay, when Allah Ta'ala says that you can marry, ahillu lakum, that hillu lakum, lawful to you, or the people of the Utul Kitab, people that were given the book before you, meaning Jews and Christians. Allah says if they are muhsanat, okay, muhsanat. Muhsinat from the word husn. Husn is the castle walls that surround the castle. That's considered husn. You know, the privacy fence around a home is considered husn, meaning it's almost you can't penetrate the wall basically. And these are women that don't have a bad, according to Omar ibn al-Khattab, women that don't have a bad reputation in society, they're not known to be loose. Okay, it doesn't mean virgin. Some sisters say has to be a virgin, has to be a virgin. It doesn't mean virgin. It doesn't even mean that they have to regularly attend church or be overly religious. Because remember, overly religious to kuffar means they commit more shirk. You know what I'm saying? And it also means that if you say overly religious attend church, that means as soon as you drop dawah on them, they may be thinking about Islam for 3 years, right? As soon as you drop dawah and they start lagging off for church because they don't believe in it no more, but they're trying to find their way into Islam, that means they're not qualified anymore. So you have to understand all the dynamics. Muhsinat is about their reputation, how they're known in society. Okay, and this is from Omar ibn al-Khattab and others. Okay, guess what about al-Muhsinat? Sisters put a lot of qualifications for the Jew and Christian al-Muhsinat. Allah also says the Muhsinat among the believing women. Now, how many of them would qualify based on their standards? Are they virgins? Did they ever make zina? Are they quote unquote religious? You know, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Do they know their deen practice? So a lot of them wouldn't qualify. And like I said, I mentioned that if a Muslim man married a Christian or Jewish woman, they will be up at arms about it. But a Muslim man married this girl, you go to her page, half of her videos, she twerking. She got a hijab on half her pictures, if even half. You know, her profile picture's not covered. He married her, nobody bats an eye. When did she become al-Muhsinat? You know? So again, Allah gives the same qualifications for the believing women as he gives to the Utul Kitab women. But we never talk about that. So again, the good ones are taken up. You know, I mean, I don't mention names, you know, out of, you know, the modesty of the sisters, but there's some good sisters, man, that I know personally, they taken, you know, and they about their husbands. They're about keeping the relationship together, having the children be non-traumatized, you know, and things like that. They're about that. These sisters are taken. Now, the ones that we are selecting from, I know 2 good Muslim brothers that have trouble finding wives, bro. I know 2 good Muslim brothers that I would marry my daughters to, you know, and it's crazy. It's crazy out here. So one of them told me just last night, and I won't give his name. He didn't give me permission to do that, but just last night told me, he said, man, I'm thinking about marrying a non-Muslim, you know, and I say, if you do, get you a Mexican. I told him that, you know, and people are going to disagree with me, but look, the brother wants to be married, you know, he wants to be married. He wants a good woman, and divorce is always an option. And with the kafir, see, he has some maneuverability in there. You know, he has some maneuverability. With the Muslim, they understand. They understand. You know, they understand what the system, how the system supports them in non-Islam. They understand how they can hurt the man. You know, like me, it's my children. I catch my wife, my current wife. I catch her when I'm interacting with my daughters and my son. My kids that's not even hers, you know, by previous marriage. When I'm interacting with them, she's staring at me. She's looking at me like, this dude here, you know. I didn't meet my dad until I was 20, but I feel like I'm an excellent dad, you know. So she's watching me, and I turn around and she's smiling, you know, watching me interact with my children. You know, and women see you love your children like that. They feel like that's the that's the vice grip they can put on your testicles. And like my ex, that's, you know, that we married, that I can't have visitation with my child. She's denying herself child support. I mean, from the state, I give her money, but from the state wise, she's denying herself child support because she don't want me to have visitation of my own child, and she's Muslim, and her husband's Muslim. You know, so again, her seeing me play with her kids, take her kids with me to the store, take them to the park, you know, just interacting and sitting with them and having conversations. She's looking at that. She's like, wow, this dude is interacting. He's there for these kids. So how can I hurt him? How can I hurt him? That's exactly what I saw.
Well, some people would say, I mean, my ex-wife from the States would actually say, well, that's because Shaitan is not bothering her like he would bother her if she was Muslim. It may very well be true. It may very well be true that Shaitan simply leaves her alone, and because she hasn't taken a shahada, and he's just waiting, and he takes a shahada, and whichever shayateen he's assigned to her, then start getting active and busy,
Yes.
probably just to split y'all up. That may very well be the case. But even still, if that is the case, the fact is that the Muslims, men and women, know that there is a shaitan. And so that removes some of the excuse for when he succeeds, if that as much to the extent that there's actually him involved. And I do believe in his involvement in human affairs because we have that in our faith as part of the revelation.
Yes.
But we know about this. And so oftentimes when you bring this up, it is it's oftentimes sisters that will say, no, that's not the case. So when okay, well, I'm going to leave that and go back to what you said about the muhsanat. First off, stay on topic. What they want, what the mu'minat want, or I'm sorry, the muslimat want, is again to put that vice grip on you, as you said. They don't just want to put the vice grip on you after the babies. They want to do it from before. For some odd reason, unrighteous women get off on the sexual frustration of men on one hand, and any other frustration of men on the other hand. It bothers them if they can't actually do that. I can remember when my first ex in the States was just, I mean, she's harsh, and when we quit for a long time, we just didn't do it, and there was something I could eat that would kill the libido, and then it was also fasting. Certain times of the day I just wouldn't eat, and so I could live with that. But her friend one day just happened to say, "Look, Black, you know, a lot of guys, they go crazy if their wife don't give them the cookie." And I don't know where she came out of that. She came out of nowhere with that. So I knew then that what was happening was
Conversation.
my ex told her that we weren't doing that, and I wasn't gonna blame myself because I wasn't the one that closed that door. I just kept it closed once she closed it. I didn't let her open it back up for a long time, but that was only because I wasn't supposed to anyway. I mean, I wasn't even supposed to sleep anywhere near her while she was doing that. But I'm just saying that to say that we've seen with certain behaviors that women have in general, Muslim or not, that they like whatever control they can have over men because they know that they don't need that control. And of course, if they get it, they're going to lose interest in the man. That's another thing too. The honest woman is the one that tells herself the truth from the beginning. If I control him, I won't want him. Therefore, why should I even try to control him? The child is the one that says, if I control him, I won't want him. Let me see if I can gain control over him because I want to lose whatever desire I have from him anyway. She's looking to exclude the men. See, we men are looking to include women and not disqualify them. Women in general, as much as they're allowed to, they look to exclude men and disqualify men. In the West, the government is the state. Remember, the husband's the ATM with a penis first, then the ATM with no penis, then the ex-husband ATM with a penis. And she can get that. The one that always remains the ATM, though, as a backup is going to be that state. Yes. And so because the state allows this, they look to disqualify men. And not only that, it gives them war stories. I mean, as you were talking, a sister replied to me on YouTube and said, "I'm sorry to answer your questions so late, but the answer to your questions are yes and yes." We like to brag about the wrong things. And she's including herself, and she's not one of these ladies. She's one of the good ones that's taken and that sort of thing. But even she said we. I have to correct her about that. But she said, yeah, we ladies brag about the wrong things. In the barbershop, they brag about what they do to men. And my mother was telling me back in 1999 and 2000, my own mother was sitting up saying to me, these young women are bragging in the hair salons about what they're doing to men. And they're not bragging about doing this to men that deserve it, but rather guys like you and your brother. They're bragging about doing this to guys like you and your brother who don't deserve this. And it was to a point where my mother was making appointments, her hair appointments. She was scheduling them and paying extra to get them done at a time when it would not normally be open because she didn't want to be in the room with these ratchets. Yes. She said, if you say anything to them, they'll pull razors out on you, shave your hair off or something and have you walk out of there half bald or with a mohawk because everybody's scared of them. So what you're dealing with is a situation in which the Muslima did exactly that. She took the worst from the disbeliever and none of the best, and then dumped it on you. Not even the others, but just on you. And probably because you have the best behavior, or it certainly was not because of something you did to her that was mean, because that's not how they respond. So it was something that you were doing for her that other men didn't do that made her think, okay, Imam Saad is inferior to other men, so I'm gonna treat him like it. How dare he treat me this well? I know how I really am. And
Let me in full disclosure. Uh, I have I don't I'm never a simp. You know, I'm never a simp because I have, you know, when Allah Ta'ala says separate the bed, that type of thing. Like a lot of men can't do that. A lot of men see that as a punishment upon themselves. I see it as the wisdom from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm able to separate the beds, or as some ulama say, turn your back to them in the same bed, which achieves the same rule. But not a simp, but a sucker. And I say, I don't know how do you say sucker and sadaqah in the same sentence, you know. But anyway, you know, it's like I would look for those that need me, where I can do the most good. When I went to Morocco and married, I married. I refused to marry from Darbeida or any place near the water, or any place where you can look over the water and see Europe. You know, I refused to marry from any city like that because these people felt like they were better than everybody else. So I went into Fez in the old cities and stuff like that. You know, and married someone that where whatever I give her, she can give to her family, or a portion of it to her family, and take care of her whole family. That's who I married, you know, because uh, I, you know, that's how I felt like I wanted to, I wanted to exacerbate the most sadaqah I could do. I felt like if I married, and I have the ability, I'm 50 years old right now, and I can still marry a 19-year-old, 20-year-old. I can still pull one. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, you know, but nevertheless, I would seek sisters who have orphan children. And one sister told me, she said, that's one of the worst reasons in the world to marry somebody, because you feel sorry for them. And the light, I had an epiphany. The light went on after a while. I said, wow, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm not even thinking about myself. I'm thinking about their kids first. Then I'm thinking about them, because I'm sacrificing things I'm attracted to. And I feel like if I can raise these kids, Allah will forgive my sins. I can get into Al Jannah, inshallah. And I'm thinking like that. And this is, I hate to say it as a Muslim, man, this is sucker thinking. Because it's biting me. It bites me, bro. The last one of the sisters I married from Philly, she had 3 kids and no guy wanted to claim them, you know. And this sister accused me of touching her daughter when I refused to pay her cell phone bill. You know, I mean, I'm saying, bro, like, I've been through it. This is not a pity party for me. I'm just saying that brothers need to be marrying and getting something out of it. So the 8 qualities I mentioned, I don't think brothers should be sacrificing none of it. I think they should be patient or marry a Mexican.
Well, preferably one that's not with that cholo business too.
Yeah. No, don't do them. Don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I taught some of them back in Atlanta,
Yeah.
and that's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember teaching some of them, and it was, the funny thing is, I'll say this though, I will say this about the ones that came from Mexico and neighboring nations.
Yes.
In middle school, they might have been chola groupies where they like that stuff, but you would see quite a few of them outgrow that by high school. There was still some that wanted that, but they didn't remain the majority. They seemed to outgrow. There were plenty that outgrew it by high school. Whereas when we're dealing with the African American community, we seeing not only Boom Chic and Bon Quisha, but we're seeing the sophisticated Ratchet Sapphire with all these degrees go up in her 30s talk about, I need a man with some thug in him.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're still seeing that. So, and I remember years ago hearing a lady on Martyr say that. When I was still living in Atlanta. I was in college at that point. So we're talking in the 90s. And I remember seeing a lady that must have been in her 30s telling another lady when a cop walked by, she looked at the officer and then she turned to the lady and said, I can't have a man that's a goody two shoes. Either he got to have some gangster, some thug in him. Yeah. And I wasn't surprised to hear a woman say it. I was surprised to hear them say it out in public, admit it. And I was surprised to hear someone her age say that to another woman about the same age as her. That was what really got to me. And so,
Do those same women say if the man doesn't hit you, he doesn't care about you or he doesn't love you? Because I've heard women say that if a man doesn't put his hands on you, he don't love you. Because see,
you know, man,
in psychology, a child would rather be abused than ignored. You know, so a lot of children put up with
yeah.
abuse because they rather that than to be ignored, and a lot of women have that mentality. I've heard women say that.
You know, when I think about it, yeah, it may be that they're the same women. Ironically, the reason I don't know is because oftentimes I avoid them, I run from them. Um, when I hear them say that now, and even back then, I knew, okay, they don't even want me nearby. They actually don't even. I just going ahead and admit they don't even want me to be. They don't even want me to be anywhere nearby them because I'm not a thug, and I don't look like one. Um, I don't even look like the stereotype of what a thug would be. Some people actually look at me and think that I would never even hit back to defend myself. That's not true. But there are some people that have gotten that idea, and it never changed really until I shaved my head, and that's when I started to notice that people didn't really get that idea anymore. I mean, I started to notice a change in people's behavior that made me aware of what had happened before. But no, I knew, and that's why I can't really tell you if they're the same ones that say if he don't beat me, he don't love me. I'm not really sure because by the time I was 18, I knew okay, that's my cue that I need to get up out of here, not stick around anymore. No, I'm sorry. By the time I was 19, by the time I was 18 and a half, you could say. That's when I knew, okay, they say that it's time to go ahead and bounce. Because even if I'm that dude that will haul off and hit before anybody else will, there's no way they could look at me and tell. And that's when I was going to, that brings me back to the point I was going to make about you not even being a simp, but calling yourself a sucker. Well, we Muslim men, if we're Muslim, there's a reason that we became Muslim, and society has very little to do with it. It's largely because we want to live forever a life that's actually worth living and not live forever through torment. Um, I'm not really sure what in the female psyche. I'm not really sure what the motivation is. I mean, I would like to think that's what it is, but I don't know. I don't question them. I don't question a lot of lady converts about what made them accept Islam. I wouldn't expect them to open up to me anyway if I did ask them and tell the story. But the thing is this: when it comes to being disrespected, we live in a hybristic. Well, you live in a hybristophilic society. I used to live there. And the love of violence is exaggerated. Anywhere around the world, women want a man that acts like a man and doesn't just get pushed off easily from a square. Okay, fine. But in where you live, it's exaggerated. So you don't have to be a simp or a sucker to be disrespected. There's no need for that. You could simply just be nice and do things other men or the men they want wouldn't do. They want these men because they wouldn't do these things, but that also means they can't stay with these men. So the fact that you were willing to do anything for the reasons that you said you're willing to do them, being forgiven for your sin, this is a foreign concept even to a lot of Muslim women in the West right now. Even that doesn't register with them. So if you're going to do it, of course, I think the best thing would be to go to a traditional Muslim area. I also married a lady out of Morocco. Now, I remember years ago when I think you were on YouTube and you mentioned your wife being from Morocco, and I was just an observer then. I was still married to my first wife. And I remember saying, well, that's not really going to solve anything, but I hope it works for one. That was my mindset then. Fast forward several years, I was introduced to a Moroccan and we tied the knot. I was introduced by my friend from Senegal. Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on his soul. He passed away, but I was introduced. She was a widow, you see. And I could say that this was one of the first times that my willingness to do something like that was not unappreciated. It was the first time that I saw this kind of appreciation, you see. Now she was from one of the coastal cities, but nonetheless, this was a first time for me. That's when I realized how badly I'd been treated in the West. It took me to marry her and live with her as often as my schedule will allow, that I began to see, wait a minute, okay, I was actually treated badly in the West before being Muslim and after being Muslim. And see, you don't have to in the West, you don't have to be a simp, a sucker, or anything soft. You don't necessarily have to be that. Not being a selfish jerk is enough to send a signal to many of the Western women that something's wrong with you. And so that's why I was saying that she was looking at you and saying, okay, well, what's wrong with him? I'm not saying something was wrong with you per
Yeah,
se.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot
You
wrong
just
with
didn't
me,
know.
but you know,
Yeah, but as far as women are concerned, I wouldn't know. There's no
yeah,
way I'm going to marry you. It's not your fault, but I mean, we're not compatible, man. I'm sorry. I like
that's a follow
I
up.
like a much bigger yeah, I like a much bigger cup size, and but all jokes aside, though, you don't whatever was wrong. You see, the thing is that some things can be right with you in the West as a man, to the point that whatever's wrong with you never comes into play. In the West, that's what you're dealing with right there. And I'm not sure what it was like for you in Morocco, because I know in Morocco the women are all over the place, best and worst quality in one country. I know that they're all over the spectrum.
Yes,
But in terms of the West, you pretty much aren't going to find the whole spectrum, because, like you said, the good ones are rarer in number and they're taken,
they're taking it.
and they can't be out in public and all that stuff.
And you
They
know
may
why
not
they're
know.
taking? You know why they're taking? Because they not gonna let go. They taking and they gonna stay took until that man falls off the edge of the earth. You know, because they appreciate it. Now, as far as my Moroccan situation, man, it's one of the most regretful parts. I was, you know, what you tell the visa people you earn, because I'm self-employed, right? What you tell the visa people you earn, the IRS has to match that. You know, so I was set back a year, you know, from the immigration issue, the visa issue, because my IRS and my, you know, visa statement didn't match. Then next thing you know, I come back from Morocco on my second trip. Just on my second trip, I'm audited. You know, they already, when they hit U.S. airspace, or right before they hit U.S. airspace, they say everybody get your passports and your IDs out. That's about me. So I'm on the watch list. I was interrogated in London for 6 hours. You know, they wouldn't let me into the airport. They turned me back around, sent me back to Chicago. The FBI has met with me 7 times. You know, at least 7 times. Angry with me because I would not make an announcement after Juma that, oh, this is agent such and such. He would like to speak with you all. I said, hell no, not in this masjid. Eventually, they closed the masjid. They closed the whole masjid. I'm not saying only the FBI. There's a lot of munafiqun from the Salafis, from the immigrant Muslims, from the Nation of Islam, from the Wadatul community. A lot of them had, you know, to do. One of them from a homosexual community wanted that masjid closed down. So, nevertheless, you know, I went through all of that. Eventually, I couldn't bring my Moroccan wife here. She said, "Look, just keep me here. Keep me here. Let's have children, and you can come back and forth and visit us." And I told her, I said, I can't do it. And she said, why not? I said, you remember when I was in Morocco and I got there right around the time when y'all was celebrating the birthday of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You know, I say the offices, the city offices, I mean the state offices were closed for 2 weeks. Okay, so I was supposed to spend 1 month there, 30 days, and then return back home. I was seeing my kids on the video because my other wife was here. We see each other on the video and stuff like that, and I'm talking to my wife, talking to my kids, you know. And I was cool with that, but I knew I would eventually come home. And I'm gonna share this with you. And I think I said it before. Her father came to me and said, "Hey, you got to stay 2 extra weeks. The paperwork's not finished." I say, 2 extra weeks? I said, man, I got children. I got family back in the United States. That 2 weeks was like saying 2 years to me. You know what I'm saying, and I started crying, bro. I mean, tears started coming down. I started crying in front of her father and her. I miss my kids so much. See, that's the sucker, you know. I'm saying sucker in a good way, but people use that against me. It's always been that way. Nevertheless, I'm a sucker that way. I cried like a baby. I mean, coming down heavy, bro, heavy tears. I couldn't stop crying. I didn't want to be with my kids any longer than what I had to be, you know. And just it scared the hell out of me that she said, let's have children and you can come back and visit every so often. They interrogate me every time I hit U.S. space, bro. Every time I land in the United States from overseas, they interrogate me. And it takes hours and hours. It's really, really frustrating. My luggage is, I know everybody loses luggage. My luggage is always lost. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like they're picking on me. I almost had a fight with one of the guys in the airport, the security in the airport. He wasn't the airport security, like the people that check your bags. He was a real officer. We almost went at
He
it.
was
Black dude.
customs.
Yeah, customs. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, exactly. We almost went at it, bro. I mean, seriously, we almost went at it, like hand to hand. You know,
Guess who it was that was telling them that you were on that flight?
who's that?
It was the Moroccan government, the king. He's
You
been
think
doing this
so?
for years. Yep, he's been cooperating with France and the U.S. for years. What he's done, as an example, and this was what came. This is what ruined things for my first wife and I mean, my second wife and I as well. And he see polygamy is legal in Morocco, but what they've done is they play games.
Yes.
And so the lawyers are also in on this too, because it's beneficial for them. What they do is they say, well, look, you pay this fee and I'll go and I'll talk to the polygamy judge.
Yes.
And they do have on paper, there's a special judge for polygamy.
Okay.
Here's the problem. He has no name. His office is nowhere in any of the courthouses. They run you around in circles.
Yeah.
Oh, try one floor up. Oh, try the end of that hall. He doesn't exist
I've been through that.
in any of the courthouses there. See, there you go. See, he doesn't exist. So, and the king is in on that. And he's doing that because he's under pressure from France. And he made a statement to the people there in his kingdom. You're either with us or against us, because that's what Bush said. And this was when Obama was president that he said this. Matter of fact, I'm trying to think. This was, nope, I think maybe towards the last few weeks, he said this. I went there one time, and alcohol had been made. Alcohol was legal already, but it was only in certain places you could sell it.
Well, they have
Now,
the Walmart in Morocco. They have this Walmart equivalent called Al Marjan. Al
yeah,
Marjan, you go in there, it's a big store like Walmart, clothes, food, everything, and they got a whole section for liquor. You know, Walmart, the liquor is in the middle. It's there openly. They got a whole section for liquor, and there's a guard there. And my wife say, "Oh, that's for the kuffar." I say, "No, I ain't for the kuffar. That ain't for the kuffar." I'm filming the guard right in his face, and he looking at me crazy. You know. You know.
yeah, they well, it may officially be for them, and maybe that's just who went in there to buy the stuff. But at the end of the day, what was going on was that liquor stores were being left alone, but I'm sorry, to buy or sell the niqab was illegal at that time. It had just been made illegal to buy or sell it, and cops were going into stores to make sure that niqabs were not being sold or bought anymore. So the only way you could get them was to sew them yourself or give them freely as gifts. It
Okay.
wasn't illegal to wear it at that time, but it was illegal to buy or sell them. So it would have to be a free gift or something you just sold yourself in order to have it. And I mean, he was pretty much cracking down on a lot of stuff. My brothers-in-law came to me and told me, look, the government's not going to let y'all register your marriage. They're not going to do it. So either you rush something through a court in the States, and I didn't live in the States at that time. They said either you rush something through a court in the States or you divorce it. And I told them, gentlemen, she ain't done nothing wrong. I'm not divorcing her. I didn't tell them about the argument she and I had 2 days before.
Yeah.
I just said I'm not divorcing her because she ain't done nothing wrong to deserve that.
Yeah.
Now, if you want, I'll be careful. I'll come and stay with all of you when I come to visit, so that if anybody does ask questions, that you could say, "Oh yeah, he came to discuss marrying her, and he's staying in the house with us." And you know, that could be the case until such time as we could get them to legally register it or something like that. But you're asking me to just cut her off, and none of this is her fault. What are you, insane?
Yeah.
And that was actually a mistake when I look back, but it wasn't necessarily her fault. She just didn't understand what was going on. I mean, it's like I was sitting up telling them in front of her, I'm not ditching her and she didn't do anything wrong. And I don't care about your government. I'll finagle and finesse them, or we can meet and marry in third countries. I don't care, but I'm not ditching her because of something that the government's doing wrong. And she was looking like, wait, why is he? You see, it was the same thing. She'd never been this way before. But even she had to wonder why I would be willing to do this. And but later on, she did admit that she didn't request the divorce because of that, or even because of the argument that we had, which is what I thought. She later on admitted that it was due to the government pressure and pressure from the family that she requested it. And that was the only way I was ever going to give her one. I told her, I'm not doing it because because your brother say so. I would only do it if you requested it.
Yeah.
Because if you requested, yeah, you're the one that's married, so you could ask me, and that's the only way I give it to you. But Your brothers don't get to decide this. I wasn't even going to wait on their permission because he already was trying to drag his feet when it came to that. So I wouldn't have minded going through another wali that would have acted in your interest, but still scrutinized me. But what I wasn't going to do was let him just drag his feet like that because it wasn't really his place. His job was to look and see, well, is there something wrong with him, Islamically speaking?
Yes.
He wasn't looking at that at first. So in any case, yeah, the government was doing that. They were in fact they were cooperating. And when I flew back to the country in which I now live and work, from that airport, there was a guy that was working for the U.S. Embassy over here, but he was on that flight. Now he could have caught a direct flight from the States to go to the country that I now live and work. And he was an employee because he spoke to me. He handed me his card. He was employed with the U.S. Embassy over here, not there in Morocco. But for some odd reason, he was on that flight like it's a connection. That wasn't necessary.
Yes.
You see. So yeah, they do watch you because I was on the flight, but I wasn't going back to the States. I was one of the citizens going on the flight back to the country that I live and work in. And so yeah, they do that. They've been to my house they went to my house in when I lived in Atlanta when I applied for the passport. So yeah, they do that, but to a certain extent, man, sometimes these countries are sitting up there cooperating with them.
Yeah,
And
the Mukhabarat Morocco made me come down to the local jail precinct, not the one downtown, but in Fez, it's one. They got almost one in every neighborhood. If you see a masjid, most likely there's a jail precinct nearby there. And they had me come down 2-3 times, I think, asking the same silly questions over and over, just looping the questions, trying to find out why I'm there, what I'm doing. I eventually divorced her. It was painful to do so. I eventually divorced her because I wanted her to go ahead. And what happens, man, is this, if you see me, I write Negro, Knee, Negro. I write that a lot. And these are people, I don't understand why they're Muslim because they seem like they don't want the benefit of being Muslim, or the benefit of brotherhood. They started trying to get in her head. They started trying to tell her bad things. Like, dude, you don't even know me. My wife knows me. You know what I'm saying? Her family knows me. I don't know you. You don't know me. So they started trying to get in her head. So she started asking me questions and things. I said, where you getting these questions from? Eventually, I divorced her, but I continued to send her money. Until my ex-wife here, my son's mom, my 2 sons' mom, she married a kafir, for 2-some years before he actually took shahada. But she married a kafir, and I was against that because my sons were seeing that, and he riding around listening to church music in the car and stuff like that, man. I almost blew my top, bro. That's another discussion. But nevertheless, I said that that I was going to protest that marriage. I was going to protest it. You couldn't do it Islamically, but she wasn't going to get the benefit of her school funding and all that kind of stuff that she got while with me, So I was going to protest it any way I could. So she contacted my Moroccan wife and said, hey, I'll give you $1,000 if you send me your marriage certificate with Sadiq, So it was all kind of other kind of stuff. And the Moroccan woman, she messaged me and said, hey, look, your ex-wife just offered me $1,000 to do this now. I'm like, I'm already sending money. So when she said that she was going to take the 1,000 and send a copy of the certificate, she has to go to the Turjuma, the translator, and get it translated to English and send it over again. When she said she would do that, she was already divorced. I cut her off. I said, look, I'm good. If you're gonna take that 1,000 over money that's well over 1,000, if you just wait a couple of months, then and again, that's that situation. Of course, like I say, I don't know how to say sadaqah and sadaqah in the same sentence, but nevertheless, I want to get to these comments real quick. The sister said that seeking for some, okay, brother, remember, it's all in the will of Allah. See, the fact is, we don't know Allah's will. We know halal and haram. We know lawful and forbidden. Okay, we don't know Allah's will. We don't know Allah's qada. We know the qadr. Qadr is the characteristics in which Allah created things, but we don't know the end game of things. There's a sphere of life that we control. There's a sphere that controls us. The part that we control is what Allah Ta'ala told us to act within. We're not to act upon the knowledge of Allah Ta'ala. Allah told us to marry women who you choose. So therefore, it is our choice in doing so. And a lot of times we make the right choice. Women make the wrong choice, just like men make the wrong choice. And also we make right choices. Alhamdulillah for those that make the right choice. She said, this sister, Athedia, I think, Khadija Harris, she says, seeking for someone just like yourself in your deen. Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you feel like you are in the deen. A lot of times people need help in the deen. We may think they need help in the deen. A lot of times we need help in the deen. Marriage is considered nisf, a part of the deen. People say half, but actually nisf is part, of a thing. It could be half of a thing. So they say it's part of the deen, fear Allah Ta'ala in the other half, and that's what we intend to do. So again, we're trying to arrive at the sakina and the balance, and I think that's really, really important, especially in these days and time. The sister Athida Khadija Harris, again, she says, whenever you talk about the good in a sister, let the sisters know, because there is some good sisters out there. You just have to seek Allah for her. Well, I understand that. I'm past the pity party, of marrying people that I feel like I can benefit, and I want to be with somebody that benefits me. I like the qualities in the wife that I have. I like the fact that she's giving. I like the fact that she's all the things that she is. You know what I'm saying? For as visually, everything. I like what she is. I'm not limited to one wife. I don't know why people think one wife is a death sentence. It's a death sentence for some sisters that don't want to live in that situation. Matter of fact, the last woman I married, the one that's holding my child against me, she said that she was against polygyny. Do you know she was my second wife? And she said she's against polygyny. She came in, she married a married man, and then started voicing her displeasures with polygyny. I mean, what mentality is that? But nevertheless, in the last one, Sister Sharifa Abdurrahman, she says, but sometimes when a Muslim says that, it's not for the reason that you're thinking. And this is when we were talking about someone saying they want somebody on their deen but a little hood. Or that woman that said that she want a hood dude, I think that's right about the time she put that comment, but I'm not exactly sure if that's what she was pertaining to. So Sister Sharifa, if you can clarify, what do you mean by that statement, inshallah, that would be helpful.
I know that when she wrote it, it was well after we had said something about, so the time was different, but she just now said, yes, that's what she meant.
Okay. So what are sisters meaning? What are they meaning when they say they want somebody that has deen and hood? Because, I mean, in Muslim perspective, you would say deen is sufficient. Because deen covers every aspect of life. Political affiliations, social affiliations, deen covers all of that. But nevertheless, what could they mean? Or what are we misunderstanding? Because this is from a woman perspective. What are we misunderstanding about a woman saying she wants somebody that's on the deen but a little hood? A still hood. So inshallah, she'll type something. But alhamdulillah, I really appreciate you coming on. I enjoy your talks. You motivate me whether you know it or not, because I like your diction. I like your presentation. I'm trying to be more measured in my speech as well. I like the way you. I mean, I don't know if you're reading from something, if you're coming right off the top of the head, but I like the clarity. There was an imam. He's a student of Wadathuddin Muhammad. I'm not too fond of them for aqidah reasons, but he would speak, and I gave him a compliment one day. I said, I may not always agree with what you say, but I always understand exactly what you're saying. And I learned that from one of my teachers. He told me that a lot of times people will speak and you may not get nothing but a hadith from them. You may not get nothing but hearing some Quran from them, because the speech may be just totally off. He say, enjoy that benefit, So I benefited from this Wadathuddin student because he was clear in his speech. And that's one of the things I admire you for. Your speech is very, very clear. Whether I agree with you or not, it's very clear. And I admire that because I have a speech impediment, and I'm not always as clear as I should be. I get tongue tied and I stutter. So alhamdulillah for that.
Nobody would know that you have a speech impediment. I haven't heard, I never heard evidence of it. I only know because you told me just now. But thanks for the compliment. And more importantly, I hope that it can benefit. If you disagree and it's based on a Sharia reason, I'm willing to listen, because if I go out of bounds, theologically speaking, it's an accident. It's something I did because I didn't know. Um, I have, I don't want to do that ever intentionally. So if it's ever because of that, feel free to send me a message and let me know exactly what was out of bounds. It may have even been, I may not even be clear about what I was talking about at times, because no, I have no intentions of putting red pill awareness over what was revealed. Rather, I just see where they intersect. Um, and you might know about, I don't know if you know him personally, I doubt it, but you may know who is uh, Gabriel Carestes Romani. Um,
Yeah, he's Romanian sheikh.
well, I know he's a school principal. He is Romanian. He's living in Malaysia now, and he lived in Canada for years. And somewhere
Yeah, yeah.
down the line, he became.
He recently put some. He's into the masculinity thing. He recently talked about he opposed Mufti Mink putting the knitting video.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
yeah,
he
yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah.
That him. He said that we can reassert masculinity without necessarily going beyond the bounds, and we can't use Jordan Peterson as a hero or as a model to do that.
Yes.
And he was 100% right. So, in principle, I agree with him. If you catch me in detail out of bounds, let me know
Yeah.
where I was out of bounds, and what the evidence is for it being the limit. Because again, I'm not going to be doing that intentionally. It would have to be an accident for me to do that. And to address Sharifa Abdurrahman's point, um, she's saying that she wants to be protected. And to
Okay.
be honest, I understand, Mr. Sharifa. I get it. You want to be protected, and that's one of your rights. But the thing is this: there are two ways to protect you, ma'am. And I'm saying this for you to also give this advice to other sisters too. You got every right to want to be protected. A man that's willing to protect you was different from a thug. Those are two different levels. Thug, the word thug actually came from a Thuggee cult that worshipped Kali in India, and they were robbing people on the highway. So the word came from the wrong source, to be honest. And what's happened, Mr. Sharifa, is that white supremacy has taught us to view ourselves through its own eyes. So we've been taught to stereotype, even we black men have been taught to stereotype ourselves as being hyper aggressive, like a King Kong, like a what you might call the niggerilla. Not that I believe in this, but this is something white supremacists, it's a fantasy they have or stereotype they have in their mind. And we've been taught to view ourselves that same way and to assess ourselves the same way. Now, sisters have been taught to view men through the eyes of white supremacy. Black women have been taught, Muslim or not, they've been taught to view black men through the eyes of white supremacy. We black men have been taught to view each other through the eyes of black women. So if you say you're looking for a thug and you literally mean a thug, you got no grounds to stand on. But what you're saying now is that you're just looking to be protected, and that's okay. But see, when sisters want that, they need to explain that that's what they're looking for, and not this stereotypical image in the minds of white supremacists of a hypermasculine thug that too many of us have come to believe is also true. So if you didn't feel protected, you have a right to be concerned about that. I get it, naturally. But you got to keep in mind that, like I said before, there are two ways that a man protects his woman. One is when an immediate threat pops up and he springs into action. He can do it by being a decoy so that you can get away. Because understand, in a sense of an immediate threat, when someone comes to mess with you and they've seen you with your husband, they've already assessed that your husband is, or they're already prepared for your husband to intervene. So understand, he about to die. He may step up, protect you, but understand he's about to die. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's just how the predatory nature of any oppressor is. If an Islamophobe sees you with your hijab and he sees that you with your husband and he steps to you, he's prepared for your husband to come to your defense. He's already got a weapon, or he's armed, or some other people are waiting in the wings, waiting in the cut. So just understand that that's what's about to happen. Now, the other way that men protect women is by providing a safe environment. And this is where the non-thug comes in. See, everybody that's not a thug is not going to just let you have to defend yourself. That's not the case. It's not everybody that ain't walking around swaggering with tats and looking scary. Doesn't mean he's going to run when somebody comes and steps to you. But what it does mean is that they're more likely to provide you a safe environment in which you ain't gonna like. You're not likely to be disrespected in the first place. So those are the two ways. And see, one man that wants the appearance that'll scare people away from you is not the same as the one that's going to provide a safe environment for you. Those are two different dudes. Hopefully you found a man that will provide the safe environment because he can still spring into action for your defense, and chances are he'll do so. But hopefully you found that, because if you found a man that just visually is going to scare people away from you, and he does it intentionally with tats and other affectations of the street dude, he ain't trying to provide a safe environment. And unfortunately, a lot of sisters. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the myth of the thug. You know, and thank you for the history. You know, the etymology of that word. But this is the myth with the thug. See, I used to be a thug. I was a street dude. I was the dude that I fear my children running across on the street, the equivalent of today. You know, I was that person. I would help an old lady cross the street, but then I would kill her grandson, you know, in the same breath if he wore the wrong color. So I came from that idiocy, you know, forced into it almost. Nevertheless, the myth of thug, a lot of thugs are cowards. So the thug being equivalent to macho is not correct. A lot of thugs are cowards. A lot of thugs hide behind that steel, you know, that steel euphoria, that pistol, because they don't have hands to protect anything. You can't shoot everything. You only get to shoot once. You know, you only get to shoot once or use that gun in one occasion. After that, you're locked away. After that, you're gunned down or what have you. So that goes out of the window. I know a lot of women, they just jump from thug to thug because these dudes don't have hands. They don't know how to protect. They know how to kill. They know how to squeeze a trigger, and they hold the gun wrong. So that means the casualties, you know, unlikely individuals are being hit instead of the person they're aiming at. You know, one guy named, I forgot his name, Capone. He got shot at 50 rounds with an AK-47, got hit one time in the hand. You know, where you think them other bullets went? You know, and this is the problem that we have. So thug is being associated with brave. Thugs are not necessarily brave. You know, I find them to be the most cowardice. You know, with the drive-by is just as cowardice as the U.S. Dropping bombs from 50,000 feet in the air in Vietnam. That's cowardice. You know, that's impersonal. You know, I once walked up to a dude and put a knife into his chest like butter. You know, and until you hear that sound coming from another man, don't talk to me about thug because you drove by and shot at me. You know, so I'm saying that thug, you know, that doesn't necessarily equal bravery. So I understand what women are trying to say, but they don't understand the reality. Dudes are fake tough around them, but when they're around other dudes, I done had women tell me, man, my man is just my man. I say, your man is booty around us. You know, hide behind a tree and watch us interact. Your dude is on the lower rung of the ladder when it comes to us street dudes, you know, when I was in that particular life. So again, you know, we tend to associate, you know, like the brother stating, you know, this is through their perspective. This is through their glasses that we are viewing life of toughness and roughness. No, these thugs, you know, where do you think the down low thing come from? These come from these fake thugs. You know, that's where the down low come from. Because if a dude is soft, a dude is soft. But a dude pretends tough, and then you find out that he, you know, is on the bottom of another dude, or with another dude, period, you know, then you be like, oh, wow, he's on the down low. You know, well, the thug life is one of the lowest lives you can have, you know, probably just right under pimp, you know. That's a low life. That's a low life. So again, we associate that with toughness. I don't find it tough at all. You know, I don't find it tough at all.
Once you have the swagger and you got to show this type of thing, you've already given up your hand. Truth be told, that's once you have decided that you're going to take on the cosmetic affectations that identify you as somebody ready to scrap and that other people are supposed to be afraid of, I actually have less fear because I can see that person.
Yeah.
That's the one that doesn't scare me as much because I already see them and I see what they put on, and others are the same way. The thing is that if I can see this and I'm a civilian, that means detectives can see that. So
Yeah.
detectives know right off the bat they're not going to catch the shooters that don't look like shooters because nobody knows. They're not trying to bring attention to themselves. People, when you really do violent things for a particular reason, be it political or financial, when you really do these things, you know that you don't really want to bring attention to yourself. So you can see that coming a mile away when somebody's putting on the affectations. They're doing it for the same reason that a lion roars. When a lion roars, he's telling you this is the territory. So he's doing that so that other lions would stay the hell away so he doesn't have to fight. The fighting is the last resort. Now, when that same lion is hunting, he doesn't roar. When he's actually trying to make a kill, he doesn't roar. That's a long distance communication. When he has to eat, he gets silent because he knows he's not catching anything if they can hear him coming or if they can hear her coming. This is something that they understand, and it's the same thing right now with the thug. When you're walking around and you beating your chest and you're acting out the stereotypes that your enemy has of you, and you internalize that yourself, you're already controlled by somebody that hates you. That's the first thing. They come up with a stereotype, put it on TV, you buy into it. Great. You just let the one that hates you the most define you. Secondly, they may do this because that's what the women like. And unfortunately, that means he's not smart, because what the smart guy is going to do, if the smart guy realizes he's in an environment where the women are hybristophilic, they like the violence, then he's going to go somewhere where that's not what they're looking for. That's what the smart man does. So automatically, you've now limited the IQ of a man that can appeal to you. Well, okay, you combine violence with a violent appearance and a low IQ, that man's going to get caught. You've just now selected the highest candidate to get arrested and locked away from you. How's he going to protect you when he's locked up? You put yourself in that cycle. I'm talking to the sisters. You put yourself in that cycle. And the last thing that you want, the last thing that the guy wants or that you want is for someone like me to be locked up with them. I know who they are and they don't know who I am, and they come test me. Because once I'm locked up, and I'm actually more likely to get killed than I am to get locked up. That's one thing. But if I'm locked up with them and they decide they're going to take one thing from me, I got nothing to lose. I'm the one that's going to kill them because I don't have, there's nothing else to lose now, except the little possessions that you're allowed to keep with you in captivity. I'm not the one that's going to fight that man and just fight him. I'm the one that's going to do something that's going to surprise him. He doesn't see it coming, and then he's going to die. And I'm probably going to die in the process of it, but that's what's likely to happen because they themselves are not ready for every single threat. They're looking for an easy come up, and they underestimate. They got a low IQ anyway. And so I walk in knowing I'm in a dangerous situation. They walk in thinking they can make it less dangerous by picking a so-called easy target. And then that's the end of them because I see them coming. I've dealt with them before. And so sometimes, sisters, when you get with these kinds of guys and then they die and the cops can't catch them, the person that got away with it, I'm not a killer because I've never had to be. But the one that is the killer that gets away with it has much more in common with me and with guys that don't act like that than they have in common with your man or your husband that you married because you like that thug appeal and he wound up getting killed. That's because the one that's going to get away with doing something like that has to have already thought it out and planned it out. And already you done picked a man that's not thinking and planning out on a tactical level. So if you really want security, ladies, get someone that's actually a police officer or some sort of licensed security for somebody or a professional bodyguard. Those are the ones that have the legal paperwork and the training to protect you. You can get with those guys. Help private detectives oftentimes. If you don't want a real cop and that's too goody for you, okay, the private detective, like what Michael Jordan's wife, Juanita Jordan, was hiring to spy on him for all these years. Get one of them. But you going and getting this dude that wants everyone to be afraid and can't get a passport and probably can't leave the state when he is free because of stuff he's done. that's not the one that's really going to be around to protect you the most. It's not going to be the case. And oftentimes they may have the most reason to run, because if I confront them and they don't want to go back to jail or prison because they done already got priors, they're probably going to do what I ask them to do,
That's
because I
funny.
don't have that much to lose.
It's funny because the those thug types, because we covered protection as one of the admirable or the desirable qualities that a sister would look for in a man, right? We covered protection. I guess this will fall under that. But those types, those thug types, they are already in the muck. They're already in the muck. They're already they have a high level. Look at it this way: you're marrying a man because he has some street sense. I guess let's call it street sense instead of thuggish. You marry a man because he has some street sense. That's okay. But how did he develop that? Or how did he get a reputation where he can protect you or people fear, him? He's already in the muck, in the mire, meaning that he has enemies, which actually increases your level of threat because you got with this dude. I know that for a fact, that increases
Yep.
your level of threat. You got with a dude for his ability to protect you because he has this street sense about himself, but he has a lot of enemies. He has a lot of enemies, and that's the way it works. So like the brother saying, and one thing that he alluded to, marry a man that can put you in a neighborhood where you ain't got to worry about, this and that. Marry a man, because a neighborhood like that got high security, the stores you shop at are high security, so again, marry a man like that. That's a way to get protection. Also, being obedient and submissive to your husband is a protection. Because if it's storming and raining outside, you say, you know what, I really want me some this type of ice cream, and she said, could you go get it for me? I said, well, babe, it's raining outside, it's storming, it's not safe to drive. I really want some ice cream. You know what? I'll go get it myself. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because it's unsafe for me. It's really unsafe for you. So again, that's part of our protection. So if you're obedient to your husband, that makes him a better protector. But when you're disobedient, you're going to be calling him, I'm at this certain place and these guys are talking crazy to me, or one of them touched me. Where are you? I'm at this certain place. Well, who told you to go there? Why are you there? Oh, I'm with a friend. Well, you never asked me for my permission to go there. See, a man is charged with his amanat, which is his family, and he is charged with making executive decisions like that, and you are not charged with that. So it's best for you to check with your husband. Some husbands, like myself, I don't care where my wife moves too much because she know where she can go, she know where she can't go, and she'll tell me before she goes most places. But nevertheless, part of my protection is being the man and making that executive decision. That's part of my protection. So again, the thug life, the thugs I know, when they get locked, their husband, their girl jumps on the next thug, and most likely it's the thug that was close to them. So that means your phone calls, your letters, your visitation come to a screeching halt. Once you're locked up. So again, we understand what you meant by thug. I'm just discussing, that thug thing kind of triggered me. Not saying that I ever qualified as a thug. I just know that life. I wasn't in and out. I went to prison one time and I didn't go back. And when they gave me 8 years for attempted murder, I jumped on it. You would think I had kangaroo legs the way I jumped on that. They did not get me for what I did. They got me for one thing, and I jumped on it. I can do that time, 8 years standing on my head, as they say. Because when you realize all that you have done, and then they get you for one particular thing, it's best to take that time and roll, because while you're on the streets, it only gets worse. But nevertheless, well, alhamdulillah, the sister said, okay, well, yeah, she was just clarifying what she was thinking. So you got any parting words, Akhi?
Well, thank you for having me on. I greatly appreciate your patience with my long-windedness. I descend from 2 generations of preachers in the church, so it comes out, and I
My
greatly
father's a
appreciate
licensed
he-
Baptist minister.
Oh, wow!
Very charismatic.
I'll bet. I bet he has a lot to say about your shahada too, huh?
Well, when he was alive, he did. You know, this
Okay.
dude right here, man. I gotta tell you about him one day. He's a character. I didn't meet him till I was 20. I saw myself in him. Look at his face. Look at my face. A lot of his characteristics. It's amazing how we apart, but we share characteristics. Ain't that crazy, man? You know,
Yeah,
share
a lot
character
of behavior is, yeah, a lot of
genetic.
it is genetic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I'm long-winded too. Because sometimes I like to be. Muhammad Sallallahu had that character too. They say that they would ask Muhammad Sallallahu like a question, and he would go. He would be really elaborate in his explanations. Really elaborate.
mhm.
And for that, he left no I undotted, left no T uncrossed. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And it was a part of his mission,
Yes,
understandably. But since I'm not a prophet, I appreciate you being patient with me. And at some point, I may just have to go ahead and get on my channel and have you clarify some things for Muslim men that also have a red pill awareness.
inshallah.
Um, is it okay if I put a link to this video on my channel?
Please do, inshallah. Please do. I ask that everyone that is listening, observing, to share it. Share it, like it, dislike it, leave a comment. Do that so we can push the agenda forward. Uh, Obviously, through our whole discussion, you can see that settling for less is not within the Muslim wheelhouse, really. But if we are to define it, we try to define it as best that we could. And we should not sacrifice our deen. Don't sacrifice your tranquility. Don't sacrifice balance. Don't sacrifice your happiness. Don't sacrifice any of that. As far as finances, attractiveness, those things can be sacrificed. When I say sacrifice deen, I'm talking about your deen. Whether it affects your deen negative, you can be with a Muslim. If it affects your deen negatively, you got to bounce, because at the end of the day, deen is what you're going to be measured by. So alhamdulillah, again, brother,
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate you coming on. We went kind of long, subhanallah,
Yeah,
but I think it's all
I
good
take.
though, mashallah. I really enjoy listening to you. So my patience is really, a bit of awe, mashallah. From the perspective point of view,
Thank you, sir, and hopefully it'll help us both, inshallah,
inshallah.
and help a lot of other people who ever listened. I'll admit that I'm very one-sided when it comes to this gender war. I'm not here to oppress women, but I am here for men to win.
You know where I see it?
And if it,
I don't see it as being one-sided. Look, the man in his role is being attacked, and women are being used as pawns against us. Okay, the the
yep,
the the LGBTQ community, and I put P for pedophile because they're part of that too. Uh,
hmm
they are supported by the women. The women are supporting that. Yes, Biden, yes, Obama, yes, Clinton, and all the rest of them supported that. I'm talking about the women are behind that. They have those type of friends. Okay, they are pushing that
yes,
agenda. Now, your husband comes home and gives you a disease because he has, some man cells, whatever you want to call it, some man refuse on his body parts, and he gives that to you or passes that to you. Then you deserve that. And I'm saying that it might sound mean, but you deserve it because you're supporting an agenda that's anti-woman. When they made Caitlyn Jenner Woman of the Year, you realize what that means? That means men are
yep,
better at being women than you are. How can you dare support an agenda like that? You're working against yourselves. You know what I'm saying?
yep.
You're working against yourself. So again, I appreciate you coming on out. May Allah bless you, inshallah. Inshallah, we'll hook up again, inshallah.
Yes, sir. Look forward to it. And thanks a million, sir.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So with that, I'll move toward closing out. I appreciate your comments, your feedback, your concerns, your engagement. I have the ability to click on your name and bring you in to participate in the chat. If anyone in any future episodes would like to chime in, you can cover your camera and just give your opinion verbally. If you would like to do so, I would gladly click you in. You don't have to agree with me. I know people feel like it's better when you disagree, but everything is not disagreement. Everything is not disagreement. Sometimes we agree. But if you would like to chime in anytime, in future episodes, then please do. Thank you for tuning in to Exactly, where we discuss the exact facts for the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. Inshallah Ta'ala, Allah blesses our effort and your feedback and your help and assistance and participation in this effort. We want to bring an end to the gender wars and return man and woman back to their natural state, the state of fitrah in which Allah Ta'ala created us. If we do so, we will live in sakina and tranquility with one another. This has been Saad Imam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.